Hello, if you want to watch exclusive lemon content on What If Naruto, then go to my Boosty. The first link in the description here contains such hot stories for adults, such as What If Naruto was a daddy for Sarada, or Kushina and Mikoto vulgar Naruto mommies. Follow the link and enjoy. I'm waiting for you.
Who can be considered the most wanted guy in school because of how handsome and how some see him as the bad boy. Delinquent, but this is due to the male population, jealous of the young redhead. But Naruto didn't care about his popularity with the people at his school. The red-haired boy found school more and more boring. He really couldn't blame him as he was very smart and was focused on becoming a physiologist. Naruto, get up, breakfast is ready. A woman screamed as Naruto ran his hand through her red hair. All right, Kachan. Naruto shouted. He quickly got dressed in the clothes of the academy, but he took off his blazer and only put on the white shirt, the orange tie, the black pants and some band sneakers. Naruto came down the stairs and smiled at his mother, Kushina Uzumaki. Kushina has fair skin, long red hair that reaches to her back, and black eyes. He smiles at his son. Good morning, Naruto. Are you ready for breakfast? Kushina asked with a cheerful expression. Naruto smiled back at her with his own smile. Of course I do, Naruto said with his own mocking smile. After breakfast, he took his backpack. See you, Kachan, Naruto said. He took his shark-shaped motorcycle helmet, his leather gloves, and his black leather jacket with the red ribbon symbol on the back. Naruto kept walking towards his Honda Nyorwin motorcycle. Naruto doesn't take long to get to school thanks to his bicycle. He gets off the redhead and lets out a growl that denotes his anger. The reason for her anger is the childlike screams of three perverts after being savagely beaten. Naruto shook his head at the sight of the three beaten boys. Idiots, how the hell are you not in prison? Naruto thought as he looked at them with hatred. Naruto has always had a great hatred for perverts. I guess it can be said that it started when her godfather raped Tsunade, who is married to her husband Dan. And after Dan found Jiraiya raping his wife, the man killed Jiraiya by savagely stabbing him with a kitchen knife. Fortunately, because Dan is a politician, he was able to avoid going to jail. Naruto then stares at the beaten perverts. You three are fucking stupid, Naruto said as he walked around. Of the perverts beaten up without even caring. The redhead hears a cough. Naruto turns around and sees Sona, a young woman with glasses, with a slender figure, black hair with a short bot cut, and violet eyes. Its measurements are width 77, width 57, height 83 centimeters. Sona is 166 centimeters, 5 feet and 5 inches tall, which makes her an average height person. She was mainly wearing the female school uniform of the Q Academy. Aren't you going to help them? Sona asked looking at Naruto who was walking away. Naruto turned his head with a raised eyebrow. Why? Naruto asked. Because they're your freshmen. Shouldn't you teach them how a student should behave? Sona asked, staring at the redhead. No, besides, I'm busy, Sona-senpai, I have class. Besides, you shouldn't worry more about them than about me, than if I know how to behave, than about girls. Naruto said while looking at his violet eyes. Sona looks at Naruto with narrowed eyes. That's fine, but at least try to be a role model, Sona said as she left. So, Aize is not the only one with a sacred team, he has one too, one that is perhaps stronger than Aize's own sacred team. Sona said. Naruto runs his hand through his hair with his eyes closed. Suddenly he feels as if he has bumped into someone to help him. He opens his eyes and sees Ma'am, who is in his class. Lady has long red hair, with spiky bangs on her forehead, violet eyes and light skin, and wears the female uniform of the Q Academy. Lady gives Naruto a light stroke with a pink blush on her cheeks. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. I wasn't looking where I was going. You're sorry, ma'am. Naruto simply waved her off. Don't worry. It's my fault, Naruto said. Now I must hurry up or I'll be late, Naruto said as he walked away, while, unbeknownst to the two of them, Rias Grimori and Akeno and Mayima watched Naruto walk away towards his class. Since the classes had already started, Naruto just wanted them to finish. The redhead stared at the wall as if it was the most important thing. Phew, can't wait for the classes to end, Naruto thought with a bored expression. Unfortunately, today had been one of those long days. Hours later, Naruto hurried to walk fast and got on his bike. The redhead had always loved riding his motorcycle. It made him feel free, while most students do not have a license or a car. Naruto had obtained his license at the age of 16. His cousin Nagato had bought him the motorcycle as a gift when he passed the exam. Naruto quickly grabbed his helmet and got on his bike. Then, he pulled out of the school parking lot. He looked at his watch. "Mom, okay, I still have time," Naruto thought, and let out an annoyed sigh. "Ugh, I wish my teacher hadn't talked so much at the end of class." Seriously, he should have talked for at least 20 minutes, Naruto thought. Then he stopped when he saw a student trip and fall. He got off the bike and realized it was with Echo. "Run towards the fall, Kaneko." "Miss Tohu, are you all right?" Naruto asked with concern. Kaneko looks at Naruto, and then looks at his fallen box of chocolates. "My sweets," Kaneko said with a stoic tone, and void of emotions. Naruto couldn't help but sigh. Man, this girl must have been through a lot. Naruto Tohu thought, "Are you okay?" Kaneko repeated, and then nodded her head. Kaneko grabs her hand, and the little white girl is surprised at how soft her hands were. "Cocoa butter," Kaneko thought. "Yeah, I'm fine." "What's your name?" Kaneko asked. Naruto lets go of his hand and smiles at Kaneko. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, I am a third-year student," Naruto said. "My name is Kaneko Tohu, I am a second-year Uzumaki senpai," Kaneko said with her usual stoic tone. Naruto smiles at Kaneko. "I'd like to talk to you more, but I'm busy. But if you want to talk to me about your personal problems, I'm here for you," Naruto said as he put on his helmet. Kaneko's yellow eyes stare at Naruto's helmet. "I don't have any personal problems," Kaneko said. Naruto then starts his motorcycle and drives away. "So, why are you wearing that mask?" Naruto shouted as he walked away, leaving Kaneko shocked. "That I could read it so easily." "He read to me," Kaneko said as she watched Naruto walk away. "A cool bike," Kaneko said, and then returned to the Hidden Research Club. Naruto smiles as he drives through the streets. That Kaneko sure has a strong grip, but that girl needs help. I hope I can help her with whatever her problem is, but it all depends on if she wants my help," Naruto said. The redhead continues driving his motorcycle until he reaches the area where all the homeless people live. But this area is where people usually commit some kind of suicide. Naruto had been visiting this place for 2 years in a row to help people deal with their problems and get them the medicine they need for dispersion and extreme stress, which could lead them to make reckless decisions that would lead them to suicide. The people of the area consider Naruto a hero, as he has helped and saved many. Naruto has also been studying physiology for 3 years. When Naruto stops, he takes off his helmet, allowing his red locks to flow freely as he walks towards his usual route. He sees a brunette woman who looks like a mess. Naruto smiles at the woman who is a nervous wreck. "Hi Suzumabachi, White Beetle, I see you haven't been cutting yourself," Naruto said while barely looking at the scars on his arms and hands. Suzumabachi nods his head. "Yes, I have those pills for depression that you gave me that really worked," Suzumabachi said. "I'm glad to hear that. If I may, why are you so depressed?" Naruto asked with a curious tone and hoping to help the woman with whatever problem she was dealing with. Suzumabachi nods his head. "That seems fair after everything you did to me, and if it wasn't for you, probably she'd be dead somewhere. I know a way to tell you why I'm so depressed. I guess it has to start with my alcoholic father and my mother, who was a facilitator. I guess you can say that my mother was jealous of me," Suzumabachi said in a sad moment while rubbing her arm. Naruto raises a raised eyebrow at him and squints his eyes in suspension. "Jealous of you? Why was your mom jealous of you?" Naruto asked, looking at the 39-year-old woman. Suzumabachi sighs. "Because she thought I was prettier than her and wanted to steal her husband, who was also my father. But I think he had a mental illness. That was probably one of the reasons he let my father beat me and sexually harassed me. If it wasn't for that, he would rape me. And when my mother found out, she would leave me in a brothel and let all those men get away with it. Let's not forget that I was 11 years old. This continued until I ran away at 16. At that age, I was in an abusive relationship. I became addicted to heroin and cocaine. I also lost my unborn child when my boyfriend kicked me down the stairs. I was in a coma for 22 hours. The fall killed my unborn child. The police found out the real story, and my boyfriend was sentenced to 68 years in prison without bail, Suzumabachi said. Suzumabachi looks down sadly. Naruto couldn't help but feel sad for her, but he didn't show pity. I am really sorry that you have experienced this. No one should have to deal with that, Naruto said in a professional tone. Thanks, Naruto. I'm glad I could tell someone what I experienced. You really are a saint, Suzumabachi said as she bowed to him in a sign of respect. Naruto dismissed her with a gesture. No problem, I'll be glad to help, Naruto said with a smile and watched her as she left. Naruto continued to help several people. Just as he was about to do so, he saw an 11-year-old boy with a knife. Naruto grabbed his hand. Wow. What's the matter? Naruto asked, looking at the boy. The kid makes fun of Naruto, why do you care? The boy growled. It matters to me because I'm about to see a kid do something he might regret, Naruto said as he stared into the kid's eyes. While staring into the eyes of the child, I could see loneliness and a look of him giving up on life. The kid growls in annoyance, why the fuck should I believe you? The boy shouted with rage in his eyes. The redhead lets out a soft sigh. If I didn't care, then why would I be here preventing you from attempting suicide? Naruto said with determination. The boy drops the knife and his gaze fades, then he frowns slightly. Are you serious? Do you really care? Asked the boy with reddish-black hair. Of course I do. What's your name, little one? Naruto asked with concern. The boy nods his head. Hello, my name is Akekawa, Red River, Akekawa said. Naruto smiles at Akekawa, and when he sees that the boy has come down, he releases Akekawa's arm. Hi Akekawa, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. So, what are you doing here? Naruto asked. Akekawa looks down with what appears to be embarrassment. I ran away from home. My parents don't care about me. Akekawa cried out with new tears falling from her face. Naruto looks at Kaikawa with sadness. The red-haired man doesn't know how, but the young Uzumaki has always been capable to perceive the emotional level of a person. Not only could he analyze and scan her, it was as if his brain could read a person on a physical and emotional level. He could not only scan and analyze people, but also objects. It was as if he could find the weakness in anything. Naruto shook his head at the strange gift he possesses. This is no time to get distracted. I must concentrate on the task, Naruto thought with a professional tone. Akekawa, why did you think that? It can't be true, Naruto said as he tried to reason with the boy. But every time they come home, we never do anything as a family. Akekawa shouted in a depressed tone. Can I ask you something? Naruto asked. Akekawa slowly nodded his head. How old are you? 12. Naruto asked. Akekawa raises an eyebrow, confused why Naruto wants to know his age. I'm 11. He told Kaikawa. Naruto hums mentally to himself. So Kaikawa feels that his parents neglect him when in fact they both have a full-time job and, whatever their job, they come home late and exhausted. Most likely, he feels neglected because his parents do not pass. They spend time with him even though they were too tired. It's simply the mentality of a child whose parents are out all day and don't spend time with the child. And said child feels neglected by his working parents, Naruto thought. Naruto stares into the boy's blue-gray eyes. Akekawa, are you sure your parents don't care about you, and it's not a simple misunderstanding? Naruto asked. Akekawa then looks at Naruto in disbelief. I don't know, what if they don't know they love me? Akekawa asked in a sad tone. Naruto nods his head. I'm sure that's not true. Have your parents ever told you that they don't like you, or have they ever told you that they don't love you? Naruto asked. Akekawa shook his head negatively. No, they haven't, Akekawa said. Then they worry about you, and I am sure they are very worried about you, he said. Naruto said. Akekawa nodded his head in agreement. Akekawa smiles broadly at Naruto. The red-haired teenager notices that the child's smile is typical of a child. You're right, Naruto, thank you very much. I'd better go home. Akekawa exclaimed. Naruto makes a fuss at Keikawa's red-black yes, but I'll take you home. This isn't really a place for a kid to be around, Naruto said, and then grabbed the kid's hand and led him to his Honda Nyorwin motorcycle. Keikawa looks at the motorcycle in amazement. It's the coolest motorcycle I've ever seen. Keikawa exclaimed. Naruto couldn't help but smile at Keikawa. Thank you, it's getting late now, Naruto said as he watched the sunset. Time jump. After Keikawa had told Naruto how to get home, the boy's parents were very worried. They had thought that someone had kidnapped their son, but fortunately that was not the case after that. Naruto was the one who told Keikawa's parents about the big misunderstanding, to say that his parents were surprised. We are an understatement after some crying and hugging. The family thanked Naruto. But Naruto, as he is, simply ignored them. I was happy that I was able to reunite a family before something drastic happened. Naruto explained why he was in that part of the village, and the parents were surprised to find that, unlike most teenagers who spend time together, using drugs and other activities, the red-haired hero did not. No, what he does in his free time is help people. Honestly, they never imagined that they would meet someone so young who really enjoyed making others happy and safe. The two adults felt that they were not even talking to a teenager. For them, it was as if they were talking to another adult. Naruto looks at the clock. It's getting late, and I think I stayed longer than I should, Naruto said and asked him getting up from the couch. The woman shook her head. Nonsense, Naruto-kun. You are welcome here anytime, the woman said with a bright smile. Her husband bows to Naruto. You really are a saint, the man said. Thank you, you are both very kind. I'm just doing what anyone would do. But I must go, Naruto said. The two parents accompanied Naruto to the door. The woman smiled at Naruto. See you soon, Naruto. God bless you, he said. Naruto bowed to them respectfully and left the house, hula hooping on his bike. God. I've never been one to believe in something inexplicable, but I guess some people need something to believe in. Me, on the other hand, it's another story, Naruto said as he drove home. But the red-haired man couldn't help but feel proud that he had helped a family. On the way home, Naruto finds himself at home. After parking the bike, his mother welcomes him into the living room with a stern look, looking at Naruto with her black eyes. Do you have any idea how late it is? You dated a girl, didn't you? I thought I told you that Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, you can't date anyone until you graduate from high school and college. I won't let a tramp ruin my son's future, shouted Kushina, with her hair in an uproar, which looked like fire. Kachan, he wasn't with any girls, he was studying in the library, Naruto said. Kushina gets up from her seat and hugs Naruto tightly. Naruto lets out a grunt. It's okay, Naruto-kun, I believe you. I'm sorry, I just don't want your future to be ruined by one of those bitches, Kushina said. Naruto smiles at Kushina. Yes, I know, Kachan, you were just taking care of me, Naruto says. Kushina walks away from Naruto and smiles at her son. I know you must be tired. How about you go to bed? Kushina said. Naruto nods and yawns hard. Okay, Kachan, good night, Naruto said as he walked towards his room. Naruto takes off his clothes, remaining only in underpants. The red-haired man lays down his head, and the Uzumaki quickly falls asleep. The next morning, Naruto performs his usual morning ritual. I'm leaving, Naruto said walking towards his bike with his backpack on. It's okay, Kushina said as she was getting ready to go to work, and then looked at a picture of her and a younger Naruto. Minato, our son, is always on the move, Kushina said, while wondering if her husband would be proud of how he raised his son. While Kushina was thinking about her late husband, Naruto was thinking about a certain white girl, not because he had feelings for her. On the contrary, on the way to school, Naruto bumped into Kaneko, who had bought some snacks. Naruto couldn't help but sweat a drop when he saw Kaneko looking at his crushed sweets. Hey, 2000, are you okay? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow, but thanks to her helmet, the little girl couldn't see Naruto's expression. Kaneko, on the other hand, stared at Naruto's helmet. Then she looked at her sweets again. My sweets are ruined, Kaneko said in a stoic voice. Naruto couldn't help but sigh. Really, must you love sweets? Naruto asked. Kaneko nodded her head. Naruto then hummed to himself, how about this? I'm taking you to a candy store. I mean, if we go now there's still enough time, Naruto said. Kaneko looks at Naruto with her bright yellow eyes. Why would you do that, Naruto-senpai? Haven't we met? Kaneko asked. Naruto simply shrugged his shoulders. I don't know. I guess you'd look a lot stronger. Happy, and I enjoy making people happy. And if that's what would make you happy, then so be it. Also, I know of a new candy store that you'll probably like, Naruto said. Kaneko stares at Naruto. You are kind, Naruto-senpai. Take me to the store, Kaneko said in a tone that said she was grateful that Naruto tried to buy her more candy. Naruto nods, rummages through his black and orange backpack, and pulls out a motorcycle helmet that looks like a leather aviator cap. And goggles firm before World War II. Kaneko puts on his helmet, wraps his arms around Naruto's waist, and consciously curls up against him. Kaneko let out a sigh of peace. It's warm. I think I can get used to this, thought Kaneko. He didn't quite know why he felt at peace now, but the young demon didn't care. Unfortunately for her, they stopped at a place called Dulce's Ruhr. Kaneko looked at Naruto and asked, is this the place? Naruto nods, they both get off the bike, they both take off each of their motorcycle helmets as they enter. A woman in her 30s is smiling. The woman has her long hair up in a bun. Her hair color is a mix of bright pink and violet blue. The woman has violet-gray eyes. She has tan skin and is wearing a blue one-piece jumpsuit, summer dress. This woman is Seiki Kesh, Gem Bar Crystal. A person that Naruto saved and who was abusing Thanax. She smiles brightly at Naruto and with Ekala Naruto-kun. Is this pretty lady your girlfriend? Seiki asked, making both teenagers blush. Naruto shook his head negatively. No, we're not dating. I'm just inviting her. Do you have any special offers today? Naruto asked. Naruto-senpai, I want that one. Kaneko said, pointing to a basket that was filled with various types of sweets. Seiki lets out a cry of joy. I see she has a good eye and is incredibly sweet. But your name being senpai is the sweetest thing in the world. But what's your name? Seiki asked as he grabbed the basket. Naruto pays him the necessary amount of money. Kaneko stares at the older woman with his usual serious tone. My name is Kaneko to who? I'll be back here with Naruto-senpai, Kaneko said, blushing. Then he turned to his senior classmate. Come on, Kaneko said, grabbing Naruto's hand and guiding the red-haired man towards the bike. Have a nice day, you two. And Kaneko takes care of Naruto-kun, he's a keeper. Sek shouted, and as the two got on the bike, they had a crimson color. She seems nice, Kaneko said. Naruto nods, saying, yes, she is, but she's a real fool when it comes to love. If you think she was excited, wait for Valentine's Day, Naruto joked. With Kaneko behind Naruto, he misses Kaneko smiling. The two of them walked into the school. Everyone was shocked beyond belief. Kaneko, the school mascot, and Naruto, the school heartthrob, riding to schools, but of all. Arez and Akeno were the really surprised. Because Kaneko was so distant at times, the two demons couldn't help but wonder what Naruto did to cheer up the somewhat cold demon Neko. But the Kinky Trio's screams could also be heard as they watched Kaneko, whom everyone finds incredibly sexy, is not only riding on someone's motorcycle, but also riding with Naruto. Someone that all men are jealous of. Damn Suzumaki! Shouted a student, crying over the fact that Naruto is with the cutest girl in Kuo. Oh my god! That was Kaneko-chan with Naruto-sama. A student shouted. I wonder why those two are together this morning, Sona mused. Arez turns to her best friend Akeno. What was it not like with Eko-chan with Naruto Uzumaki? Rias asked with a dumbfounded expression. Akeno rubs his eyes in disbelief as he sees the tower of his nobility driving to school with Naruto, who never really interacts with anyone. I think it was Rias Buku, but I still can't believe it, Akeno said in shock. Laughs between closes his green eyes. I wonder why those two are hanging around, Arez said curiously. Akeno couldn't help but wonder the same thing. Meanwhile, Rias and Akeno were wondering why Kaneko and Naruto were going to school together. Naruto and Kaneko parked in the parking lot. 4 students, and they took off their helmets. Kaneko gave Naruto back. This morning was fun, Kaneko said with a smile. Naruto smiles at Kaneko. Yes, he was, Naruto said with a smile. Kaneko then looks at his whiskers. Naruto-sanpari, can we go out again? Kaneko asked blushing. Naruto, who also blushes while looking at the cute little she-devil, I like that, Kaneko. How about I walk you to class? Naruto asked. Kaneko nods, it's okay Naruto-senpai. Kaneko said while eating a baseball-sized peanut butter cup. Naruto couldn't help but laugh at Kaneko. Akeno rubs his eyes in disbelief as he sees the tower of his nobility driving to school with Naruto, who never really interacts with anyone. I think it was Ria's Buku, but I still can't believe it, Akeno said in shock. Ria squints his green eyes. I wonder why those two are hanging around, Ares said curiously. Akeno couldn't help but wonder the same thing. Meanwhile, Rias and Akeno were wondering why Kaneko and Naruto were going to school together. Naruto and Kaneko parked in the student parking lot and took off their helmets. Kaneko gave Naruto back. This morning was fun, Kaneko said with a smile. Naruto smiles at Kaneko. Yes, he was, Naruto said with a smile. Kaneko then looks at his whiskers. Naruto-senpai, we can go out again? Kaneko asked blushing. Naruto, who also blushes as he looks at the cute little she-devil, I'll like that, Kaneko. How about I walk you to class? Naruto asked. Kaneko nods, it's okay, Naruto-senpai. Kaneko said while eating a baseball-sized peanut butter cup. Naruto couldn't help but laugh at Kaneko. Final summary. As Kaneko eats the chocolate, he is surprised not by the giant snack in his hands, but by the fact that it had opened towards Naruto. He could have opened up a bit, but he found himself wanting to be close. She knew that he was human, but she felt something else in him. She knew that it was not her unknown sacred equipment. If that was the case, she would find herself talking to the pervert Aize. He may not know what it is, but Neko only knows that she wants to meet him. Also, it has to do with Naruto's kindness, which is a relief, since most people at school only see her as the mascot. But it seems that Naruto doesn't. He doesn't seem to care about titles, and he gave me these sweets, Kaneko thought with a small sigh. Naruto looks at Kaneko so she smiles, Naruto said as he put his hands in his pockets. Kaneko turns her head in the opposite direction to Naruto without allowing the red-haired Uzumaki to see her pouting. Shut up, Naruto-senpai. Kaneko grumbles and crosses her arms as this happens. Sona, Akinu and Rias watch in surprise. Akeno blinks in amazement at the sight of Naruto, Uzumaki and Kaneko walking together. Well, I wasn't expecting this. You might have guessed that our very own Kaneko would not only be seen with Naruto, but would also be having fun. It's funny, isn't it, Ares Buku? Akeno smiled. Rias narrows his eyes at Akeno. Not funny. Interesting, yes. I'm just wondering what Naruto-san did to get Kaneko's attention. After all, the two of them have never really talked. The only person Naruto-san has really talked to before was Sons. Rias said as he watched them closely. Eslip secretly laughs at Ares, which makes the red-haired demon turn to her fellow demon Fufuzu. It's funny, isn't it, Ares Buku? Akeno said with an amused expression. This statement made the busty redhead throw her best friend an apologetic look. What are you talking about, Akeno? Rias asked. Although this sounded like an order from her queen, to not only give her friend a funny smile, wow. Ares Buku is so clueless, what a cutie. Kaneko-chan isolates herself from anyone except us, while Naruto-kun isolates himself from everyone except Sona-sama. But she always talks to him. It's a real mystery, isn't it? Akeno asked in a charming tone appropriate for someone of her beauty. Rias narrows his eyes as he sees the blonde and the white one walking away. Maybe we can use this to our advantage, Rias mused. Akeno laughs at Ares Fufu. How clever Ares Buku. He joked. No. I'm a demon, Rias whispered under his breath. Even with the serious tone that her king has on his face, the black movie still earns a mischievous smile. Or is it that Ares Buku loves Uzumakin? Even though you already have your eyes set on Udo-san. Rio to know. Ara adopted a serious expression. It's not like that, Akeno-chan, and you know it, Ares said. But both the demons knew that they wanted the handsome red-haired man, but they just had to wait for the right moment. Ares adopted a distant expression. I really hope that one of them too can help me with my problem, he thought, with Naruto and Kaneko. After watching Kaneko literally eat a candy the size of a baseball, Naruto wondered where all the little white girl kept it. Especially because now he saw her eating a huge payday chocolate bar that he forced to use both hands. The red-haired teenager arched an eyebrow and asked, "Aren't you full?" asked Naruto, curious, who was also wondering where he kept everything. Kaneko's yellow orbs meet Naruto's ocean blue orbs. The freshman girl was almost attracted to them, which almost made her blush with embarrassment when she realized that she was watching. "It's good," Kaneko said with a stoic expression. Naruto smiled smugly at the freshman, while Kaneko concentrated on the big candy. He didn't even notice Uzumaki's slutty smile. Kaneko turned to Naruto with concern, wondering, "Why are you accompanying Clara to me? Does it, Naruto-senpai?" Kaneko asked, looking at Naruto. "Oh," said one student as she watched the adorable freshmen and juniors. "They are so cute," one fan exclaimed. "Are they Kaneko and Naruto?" Tamo asked, who was surprised to see them walking together. Her friend Rhea blinks to make sure she's really seeing the white girl and the redhead walking together. "I can't believe it," Rhea declared dumbfounded. "He's so adorable," a female exclaimed. "Damn Suzumaki. Don't defile Kaneko-chan," a fanatic roared, glaring at Naruto. "Damn that handsome boy," a pervert wearing glasses complained. "Damn Suzumaki," one student howled with jealousy. Both Naruto and Kaneko would have passed by the fangirls and fanboys, but were stopped by Sona, who raised her glasses and gave them both a stern and penetrating look. "I see that you are accompanying your housen to class, Naruto-san." "How nice of you, Naruto-san," Sona said. Naruto just shrugged his shoulders indifferently. It seemed like the right thing to do. "Besides, if Mika-chan hadn't done it, he would probably punish me for not being a gentleman," Naruto said. Sona nods as the third-year girls chat. With Echo, he stares at her, or rather, at her breasts. Although they were not as big as those of Baku or Akino's Impai. The young Neko can't help but feel jealous, since most of the women she's been with have always had huge breasts. And she's cursed with a flat chest. Kaneko turned to Naruto, and then to Sona. Then he noticed that Naruto hadn't even looked at Sona's chest. I had seen Sona and Naruto talking, but I had never seen him looking at her chest. In fact, every time I passed by him, I had never seen him look at any girl's chest or butt. Like almost all the guys in Kuo, except Kiba. Kaneko narrowed his eyes at Naruto. He felt a strange energy emanating from him, not the energy of a demon, a yokai, an angel, or a fallen angel. At least he's not a pervert. I hate perverts, Kaneko thought as she thought about the perverted trio. As Sona continues her conversation with Naruto about how to behave like a respectable young man, she thinks about something else. More precisely, in the energy he feels around him and his mysterious sacrech. I wonder what sacred gear will be. Be that as it may, the sacred gear he has will certainly attract the attention of the fallen angels. Even though Ares and I need a powerful member for our nobility, we can't help but feel bad for allowing such an innocent life as Naruto's to be killed. Nothing, Sona thought as she stared at the red-haired man. Even with his own inner thoughts, he still has his stern expression, and would be. Uzumaki-san, maybe you can show Yodu-san, Matsuda-san and Motoma-san how to behave as honorable students of Kuo, Sona asked. Naruto simply shook his head negatively. "No, I don't think so," Naruto said without thinking twice as he waved his hand in the air. This response made both Kaneko and Sons raise an eyebrow at Naruto. "And why wouldn't you, Uzumaki-san?" Sona asked in a curious tone. Naruto lets out a tired sigh. "Come on, you sound on pay, you're a smart woman. If I even explained to you how a male student is supposed to act, it would come out of one ear and out of the other. All those idiots care about is spying on women and stupid porn," Naruto said with a grunt. Sona could only sweat a drop at her hatred for the kinky nature of the kinky trio. Kaneko nods his head in agreement, believing that what he says is true. He also likes how he insulted each of those perverts, but he can also feel a deep hatred when he talked about the perverts. Perverts, stupid, perverts. Kaneko said he had also wondered what had caused this certain rage of perverts. Of course, He knew it wasn't his place to question him, as it was his business, and he didn't know the redhead well enough to ask her. The young courtier lets out a soft. She sighed just like Kaneko. She has no idea what has caused her deep hatred for perverts. Of course he had asked, but Uzumaki would change the subject, or just ignore his question. I really wish you would reconsider Uzumaki-senpai, he said Sona. Naruto just crosses his arms and here. An expression would be nice. I don't plan on ever talking to those idiots. Besides, why have you really talked to me this morning? I doubt it's because of having those little perverts acting up, or because Kaneko-san and I arrived at school together. Naruto stated. He read you, Kaneko stated with his stoic tone. Sona looks at Kaneko and then turns her attention to Naruto. You're right, Uzumaki-san, I confronted you about something, and I hope you agree. Sona said with a high statue tone befitting someone who has his leadership. He raised an eyebrow at the black hair. Well, it depends if it's Sona-senpai. You know, I'm not going to blindly agree, am I? Naruto asked as he placed his hand on his hip. The demon Satira feels with her head in agreement. Yes, I know, Uzumaki-san, Sona said. So, what do you want to ask? Naruto asked while looking at Satir. I want to know if you would join the student council. There is a vacancy for our treasurer, and I was hoping that you would join the student council, Uzumaki-senpai. Sons asked. Naruto's gaze hardened. No, I'm busy, Naruto said, surprising both Kaneko and Sona. Busy with what, Naruto-senpai? Asked a curious woman with Echo who was looking at Naruto in amazement. Sona also nods her head in agreement. I'd like to know why too, Sona asked. I'm too busy to do that kind of thing. Joining a club or the school board. I'm not interested. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to accompany Kaneko to his class and mine. We have an exam today, and I'd rather not be late, Naruto said. He and Kaneko passed by her, but as they passed by Sona, Kaneko gave her a slight bow as a sign of respect, after which he felt her with his face. Head. Sona then squints her eyes as she sees a strange aurora surrounding Naruto. I must be prepared for when the fallen angels start making their move on Uzumaki-san and Udo-san. But knowing the fallen angels, they will probably make their move soon, Sona thought. While Sona was on his way to his class, Naruto turned to Kaneko, who kept looking at him. I like your bike. That's great, said Kaneko, who gave the redhead a thumbs-up gesture. Naruto didn't know how, but somehow, even with her stoic expression, the little teenager. You still looked cute. But Naruto only gives the little white girl a little smile. So, Kaneko, what do you like to do? Naruto asked, who was curious about the little white girl. Kaneko looks at his birthmarks with whiskers. Kitty, he thought as he imagined a blonde feline. I like sweets, Uzumaki-senpai, Kaneko said proudly. He lets out a small laugh. Kaneko puffs up her cheeks, believing that Naruto is making fun of her. Hey, Kaneko-san, don't be like, besides, I already know you love sweets, is there anything else you like? Like something you enjoy doing? Naruto asked. The little white girl stopped puffing up her cheeks. This action caused some screaming from the girls and cursing from the men who were yelling about their lolicon. But both of them obviously ignored the fanghills and the lolicons. She then pointed at Naruto, who stared at her with a raised eyebrow. Uzumaki-senpai, go first, Kaneko declared, but to everyone else at a distance, it sounded more like an order. Sure, okay. I like the color orange, I like reading, I enjoy anime, I like J-pop, I enjoy riding a bike, I also enjoy playing video games. I like to play shogi, and I love ramen. What about you, Kaneko-san? Naruto asked with a curious tone of voice. I like cats, my friends, tea, walking, I like mochi, I like ice cream and rap, Kaneko said. Really? Do you like rap? Naruto asked, finding it difficult that of all the things he likes is rap. Kaneko nods her head. Yeah, I love rap. I love Key-Tape, Rich Chiga, Kyle, Yaji, Exentation and Kendrick, they're great, Uzumaki-san, Kaneko said holding up his thumb. Ha ha ha, I bet I've listened to Yaji, he's pretty amazing. Besides, she's electronic, not rap, Naruto said with a half smile. Kaneko then grabs the sleeve of Naruto stupid senpai. Kaneko pouted. Hey, don't pout, Kaneko, how about I take you to that one tomorrow? Another candy store I know of. Naruto said. And like a switch, his pace slowed down at the sound of the candy store, and as he kept walking, he turned his head towards the redhead. And his yellow eyes stared at her. "Will you do it?" Kaneko asked. He nods his head. "Yes, of course." "I guess this is your class," Naruto asked. He stopped in front of a classroom. She nods and lets go of his sleeve. "What is the name of the candy store and at what time?" Kaneko asked. Naruto could have sworn he saw a thought in her eyes. "The store is called Me and My Fantasies, and let's meet at that burger joint at 12:30. Is it okay for you?" Naruto asked and she nodded. "Okay, I'll see you later," Naruto said. "Goodbye, Sanpari," Kaneko said as she entered the classroom. As he walked in, Naruto sighed to himself and ran his hand through his crimson locks. Well, why the hell did I agree to invite her? I had no reason to accept, and no, I have to invite her. Of course I couldn't go, but it seems stupid to me. Well, at least tomorrow is the weekend, Naruto thought as he walked through the halls, ignoring the girls watching him. Time jump. Later that day, Naruto was sitting in his science class, ready to take his exam. Honestly, Naruto just wanted the day to be over, mainly because he was upset with all the statuses he had obtained. Thanks to him and Kaneko coming to school. And they walked together, but now he was waiting to take the exam and leave. Someone walks into a classroom. She is a woman in her 20s. He smiles at them, which almost causes jealousy in some girls and in the rest of the men. "Hello, my name is Ijiri Kanata. Miss Kobayashi won't be here for a while due to an accident, so I'll replace it for now. So for now, you can call me Ijiri-sensei," Ijiri said with a beaming smile. Ijiri is a tall and voluptuous woman, with long navy blue hair that covers her right eye. She wears her hair up in a ponytail and brown eyes. She usually wears a white V-neck blouse with a wide neckline that shows part of her cleavage, a dark skirt, under which she wears black panties and black heels. And Jiri then sits in death behind his desk. This had caused his huge chest to bounce, causing it to almost. Every kid in the class had a nosebleed, except Naruto. "It's okay, Kobayas and Sensei said you had a test. Just because I'm here doesn't mean we're not going to have a test," Ijiri said, ignoring each of the students' groans. Right after everyone messed with Iri Ji-sensei, after receiving his exam, they started, but Naruto found it long. It was not really difficult, especially because he had put a lot of effort into studying. Besides, it helps him to have a mother like Kushina, who forces him to study in his free time. "I just want to hurry up and finish this one. Exam all at once," Naruto thought, with a bored expression as he looked at the paper. "Kill her," ordered an evil and sinister voice. Naruto turns from left to right, looking for the sound, but finds nothing. Seeing Naruto looking around, he stared at Ijiri-sense, and something happens. "Yuzu? Maki-san?" Ijiri asked with a tilt of his head. A young teenager could be heard being thrown from his desk, who obviously had a bad nosebleed. Naruto turned to the woman and shook his head. "No, I thought I'd drop something, Iriji-sensei," Naruto stated. Iriji-sense and already felt, accepting his lie, that it was not entirely a lie, since he did drop the pencil. As Naruto looked at his paper, he couldn't help but wonder who had spoken. The voice did not sound familiar to him, it seemed empty, but he attributed it to hearing things. But before she knew it, she was done with the exam, and was walking down the hallway minding her own business, ignoring the stares of the male students. Honestly, she can't wait until she graduates, and doesn't have to deal with quo's immature men. Phew, hopefully when I go to college, I won't have to deal with these idiots. For some reason, I can't forget that voice. I wonder what the hell that voice has. It doesn't sound familiar. There's no way that voice in class belonged to someone in class. Naruto thought. "I can't believe I've got a girlfriend," Matsuda said, his voice heavy with jealousy. Motoma nods in agreement. "I know, did you see the size of his attributes?" roared Motoma, who had a nosebleed as he imagined himself clutching some chest. Naruto walks past the two perverts with an annoyed expression. Seriously, how the hell are those two or that other idiot not in jail? Naruto thought, then stopped when he felt something crashing into him. He looked down and saw Kino rubbing his head. Naruto reaches out his hand, and Kino takes his hand, allowing him to pick it up. It was my fault, I wasn't watching where I was going yet, Naruto said. Akeno blushed when hugging her because she hadn't introduced herself. Usually everyone knows who he is, but it seems that the young Uzumaki does not. Hi, my name is Akeno and Mayima, 3rd year, Akeno said with a beautiful smile. Naruto nods. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, I'm a 3rd year. I must go, I'm in a hurry, Akeno-san, Naruto said as he sped towards the student parking lot. Naruto didn't even notice the redhead's charming smile. He's quite handsome up close. I must tell Rias-chan that the work was a success. I can see why almost all the girls talk about him, he's handsome, Akeno thought with a pleasant smile. With Sona. Inside the student council office, Sona can be seen looking at her best friend Ares Gramori, who has a smile on her face. This caused Sona to raise an eyebrow at the red-haired woman lurking with. Contact with Uzumaki-san, right? Sona declared. They both turned to see Akeno entering the room. Ara takes a sip of her tea and nods. Yes, I did. I knew I couldn't use the same method with Naruto-san as with Aize, Ria said with a proud smile on her face, almost that. As if I had won an award. Sona then turns to Tsubaki. She is a young woman with glasses, long, straight and black hair that reaches to her knees, with split bangs and heterochromatic eyes. One violet left eye and one light brown right eye. In addition to the female school uniform of the academy, Miyako wears blue half-rimmed glasses with square lenses. Tsubaki, how is everything? Sons asked as he looked at his black-haired companion. The demon with glasses turns to Sona, everything is going as planned. We just have to wait Sona-baku, Tsubaki said with a respectful bow. And then he refilled the cups of Rias and Sona. Now, how devilish the two of them, they both planned to claim their prize once the opportunity is right, he teased Kink. Which made Ares have a slight blush on his cheeks. Sona takes a sip of tea. Why not San? We are demons. Both Ara and I are heirs of the Satiri Gramori house, as such, we have the responsibility to prove that we have our rightful place as heirs of our own family, Sona said in a lecturing tone. Sona is right, isn't she, Chan? Besides, you should know that, as demons, we have our own selfish desires. Anyway, why not San, did you do what I asked? Ares asked with a curious expression on his beautiful face. Why does he not bow down to his king? Yes, he's downstairs, Ares Baku. I put an invocation paper in his coat, and he didn't accept anything. And you, Sona-sama, how did you give the contract to Aize? Akeno asked. I just used my family member, I should be back any time, Sona said. Now, I wonder what their reaction will be when they turn into demons, Akeno said with a blush on her face. Tsubaki simply shook her head at her partner. Fellow queen. You sound like a succubus, Akeno-san, Tsubaki said. Sometimes she wondered if Akeno was really the embodiment of lust, even though she was a virgin, she still acted like the goddess of lust. Even with her quirks, he accepted her with all her quirks. Akeno looks at Tsubaki with her head cocked. Then he put a finger on her chin, giving the busty Akeno a thoughtful pose. But I'm a demon, Akeno said with a faint tone of disorientation. But before Tsubaki could react, a summoning seal appeared. Sona smiled when she saw her relative Fenrir. His relative's name is Sanriku, Lake of the Sun. Sanriku is a huge werewolf from Norse mythology that usually measures at least 4.5 meters. This mythical creature also has the ability to change size. He has snow-white fur, black eyes like golden pupils, and 2 blue marks on each side of his face, under the eyes, which look like horizontal scars. Sanriku now looks about the size of an adult bulldog. The canine creature approaches Sona and licks her hand. She scratches him behind the ear. You have finished your work, Sanriku? Sona asks. Sanriku nods. Ares smiles at the relative, and turns to Sona, and smiles at her best friend. So that's how you gave the contract to Aize, Ares stated. Sona nods her head. Yeah, I guess it's just a matter of time before that woman makes her move. Sona said with a stoic expression, and then looked at the small stack of papers on her desk. To not smile at Sona Ara, it seems that eyes and will cause a problem. He laughed at that no. All the other women shot him a questioning look. Would you mind explaining what you mean by that? Tsubaki asked as she narrowed her eyes at Akeno. The busty redhead simply shrugged her shoulders, making her huge chest bounce. Really, Tsubaki-chan? You don't know why? Well, to put it simply, Aize is the kind of person who always gets into trouble, whether he wants to or not. The guy always gets into some kind of trouble. I mean, the fallen angels just arrived a few weeks ago, and they're already trying to kill Aize. But with Naruto they haven't even come into contact with them, but this could be because he doesn't talk to anyone, or try to initiate any kind of relationship with no one in Quo, said that one. Rias, Tsubaki and Sona found themselves agreeing with Akano. Everyone knew that Naruto was quite handsome, and the only man in Kuo who wasn't a pervert besides Kiba. Even with his appearance, the redhead was somehow antisocial, and still popular with some women. Sona turns to Rias. I'm actually curious about your SARS team, Sona said. As always agrees with Sona. He was also wondering what SARS equipment they had. I knew they both had a powerful SASID. The only problem was that no one knew what it was. Time jump, night. Naruto took off his shirt and let himself fall on the bed, moaning about the long day. Honestly, he felt extremely exhausted physically, mentally and spiritually. Luckily, he was received by his mother, who had prepared miso ramen. But he was exhausted not only from school, but also from going to his usual place. Helping these people never left him exhausted, but he was happy that he was able to help this woman not to commit suicide. Naruto really felt sorry for her. The poor woman, used as a means to earn money. It's hard to imagine parents selling their daughter like a slut just for money. I guess it shows how cruel people can be, Naruto thought. Then he felt his eyes become heavy. Fatigue overwhelmed him, closing his eyes and falling asleep. Naruto then found himself with a dark void of nothing. Normally, this would confuse him, but Naruto understood that sometimes his mind had strange dreams. Ha ha ha, this is not a dream, boy. An evil voice roared. Naruto looks around the dark space. Who is there? Naruto demanded, squinting his eyes. Naruto didn't know why, but somehow he knew that the mysterious figure was smiling. Don't worry, my user, you'll find out soon enough, the dark voice said. Naruto can't help but sigh. Damn, my mind is weird, Naruto commented with a drop of sweat. I told you, boy, I'm not a figment of your imagination. The dark voice roared. Naruto jumps back scared. So, who the hell are you? Naruto asked. I can't answer that because you're not ready yet, but watch out for the black-winged ones, the voice commanded. The next morning, Naruto woke up rubbing his eyes to get rid of sleep. Then he let out a loud yawn that made him look like a fox. Man, what a strange dream, Naruto exclaimed. Then he lies down on his bed and puts the headphones in his ears listening to pre-recites. You will soon understand, young Gorgon, the dark voice said. Sona turns to Rias. I'm actually curious about your SARS team, Sona said. As always agrees with Sona. He was also wondering what SARS equipment they had. I knew they both had a powerful circuit. The only problem was that no one knew what it was. Time jump, night. Naruto took off his shirt and let himself fall on the bed, moaning about the long day. Honestly, he felt extremely exhausted physically, mentally, and spiritually. Luckily, he was received by his mother, who had prepared miso ramen. But he was exhausted not only from school, but also from going to his usual place. Helping these people never left him exhausted, but he was happy that he was able to help this woman not to commit suicide. Naruto really felt sorry for her, the poor woman, used as a means to earn money. It's hard to imagine parents selling their daughter like a slut just for money. I guess it shows how cruel people can be, Naruto thought. Then he felt his eyes become heavy. Fatigue overwhelmed him, closing his eyes and falling asleep. Naruto then found himself with a dark void of nothing. Normally, this would confuse him, but Naruto understood that sometimes his mind had strange dreams. Ha ha ha, this is not a dream, boy. An evil voice roared. Naruto looks around the dark space. Who is there? Naruto demanded, squinting his eyes. Naruto didn't know why, but somehow he knew that the mysterious figure was smiling. Don't worry, my user, you'll find out soon enough, the dark voice said. Naruto can't help but sigh. Damn, my mind is weird, Naruto commented with a drop of sweat. I told you, boy, I'm not a figment of your imagination. The dark voice roared. Naruto jumps back, scared. So, who the hell are you? Naruto asked. I can't answer that because you're not ready yet, but watch out for the black-winged ones, the voice commanded. The next morning, Naruto woke up rubbing his eyes to get rid of sleep. Then he let out a loud yawn that made him look like a fox. Man, what a strange dream, Naruto exclaimed. Then he lies down on his bed and puts the headphones in his ears, listening to Protarchals. You will soon understand, young Gorgon, the dark voice said. Final summary. He didn't know what caused him to have such a strange dream. He sure has some strange dreams, especially when he was in elementary school. He had dreamed about the Third World War. He even had a zombie apocalypse dream. But nothing like the one he had last night, he felt. Uncle so real, so vivid, that then he ran his hand through his crimson locks. Well, whatever, I still have time before I have to meet up with Kaneko, but I honestly can't believe I'm getting her out. If Kachin finds out, he'll kill me. Well, at least it's the weekend. Naruto thought. Then he clutches his head in frustration at seeing something ancient, something dark. Phew, what the hell? Naruto growled in annoyance at the young Uzumaki. It was too early to deal with headaches, although he had no problems waking up in the morning. He preferred not to have a headache or anything that ruined him. Then he grabbed his phone, put on his headphones, and put on Exentation, King of the Dead. I'm hungry, I should probably eat something, Naruto said. He filled his stomach with starch and saw his mother already in the kitchen. He smiles at his mother, then takes out the headphones. If he smiles at her, who throws a 1,000-watt smile at him? Hey Naruto, did you sleep well? Asked Kushina, who was standing in front of the stove, cooking scrambled eggs. Naruto shrugged his shoulders, grabbed a glass, and poured himself a cup full of orange juice. I guess I just had a weird dream. Strange, Naruto said. He took a sip and turned on the TV. As soon as the TV turned on, he saw that it was the news, and quickly changed it to Freaks and Grecs. I was not a fan of the news, mainly because all the news that comes up is always about someone murdered, robbed, or sued. And the news wasn't his thing, but he doesn't usually watch TV because he's always outdoors. But she was happy that she didn't have to go to school, especially because she found the people at her school more and more annoying. Especially the three perverts. He had heard that Aize had somehow gotten a girlfriend that he didn't care about because it was none of his business. And he had thought that the girl would leave him as soon as she found out the kind of person he was, but if she didn't, the better for her. Kushina addressed a curious expression to Naruto. It was that of the zombies or the clones. Asked Kushina, who remembered all the times her son told her his strange dreams. She was honestly impressed with how much she remembers, and wrote down her imagination. Even as a child, he had had a wild imagination, but he couldn't help but wonder if Naruto had another strange dream. Naruto shook his head negatively. No, just a strange dream about a deep voice. It was really strange, said Naruto, who looked at his mother. Kushina nods her head. You're right, that sounds weird. Do you want some bacon? Kushina asked. Naruto nods his head. Do you know that Tsunade has been asking about you? Kushina asked. Naruto blinks confused seriously. About what? Naruto asked, wondering what his godmother wanted from him. Nothing really, I was just wondering when you'd be coming. Does she miss you, you know? Said Kushina, the red-haired woman, and then she turned the eggs to the other side, and seeing that they were completely cooked, she placed them on a huge plate and put the pan in the sink. Naruto runs his hand through his hair. Oh, I guess I forgot. I'm really busy with school, but it will be fun to see Tsunade Bakken, and Danji isn't again. Maybe I'll visit them this week or something. Naruto said. Honestly, he had forgotten to visit his godmother. It was not his intention, he had simply forgotten about it because of school. Meeting Kaneko, and helping other people, and now that strange dream. Kushina smiles, beaming at her son. Surely raising him after Minato was difficult, but she knew that her son would become a great man like her husband. Still, she wished he was still alive as long as Tsunade, Dan, her daughter Tsunami and Nawaki were there for her and Naruto. He feels he needed a father figure, and Dan is his age. Enough to be Naruto's grandfather, while Nawaki is more of a brotherly figure to his son, but he was still happy with him. I'm sure they would love it, And you know how much Tsunami admires you, Kushina states, and then takes a bite out of her bacon. Naruto laughs at Kushina. His mother always seemed so energetic and full of life that she can't help but wonder if her mother has always been like this, or was it after she met her father. Then he clutches his head in pain, as if something is banging inside his skull. His eyes widened when he saw a Roman Gothic-looking demonic helmet staring at him to the soul, but suddenly the strange image disappeared. Naruto, are you okay? Kushina asked, looking at her son with concern and worry. Ha! Naruto replied. Are you okay? She repeated, a worried Kushina, then placed the palm of her hand on her head, and then sketched a little smile. It doesn't look like you're sick. Are you feeling well? Kushina asked in a worried tone. Then he got up and poured her some Yuego, which she drank in a matter of seconds. Does your head hurt? Kushina asked. Naruto nods slowly, running his hand through his red curls. Yeah, I think I was just feeling a little dizzy, Naruto said, giving his mother a reassuring smile, but the problem was that it didn't look like a headache. I was sure that headaches should not feel like they are tearing your head off inside and out. I was pretty sure that if I told him the dream, he would think that I had some serious mental problem, so I would deal with this alone. Hell, I'm not even sure it was the dream, but whatever, it's a dream, Naruto thought. He started eating breakfast while watching TV. They were playing an old movie of the warrior priestess, and her favorite actress, Koyuki Kushina, appeared in it. Kushina turned to Naruto with a half smile, at which Naruto raised an eyebrow and said, Haven't you seen this movie like more than 100 times? Joked Kushina, who can still remember when she and Minato took Naruto to see one of Koyuki's movies for the first time. He was so surprised and dazzled by the movie that he also acted the same way when he saw Jurassic Park and Spider-Man for the first time. Even sometimes, when we watched those big-budget movies, he would stare in amazement. She watches as Naruto takes a bite out of his sausage. Do you know that I can say something for you, Kachan? I mean, how many times have you seen Pan? Naruto asked. Kushina in response puffed up her cheeks. It's a classic. Date Bane. Kushina exclaimed. Naruto smiles broadly at Kushina, who accidentally used her tick. Yes, I know, so is the warrior priestess. So we're even, Naruto said, and then he ate the rest of his eggs, took them to the kitchen, and started washing them. Kushina hands the plate to her son, who starts washing the dishes, and then turns to Naruto. So, what are you planning to do today? Anything special? A curious Kitchen asked. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. I think I'll go to the library. There's a book I want to get out. Naruto lied. He knew that if she found out, not only had he lied to her, but he was also spending time with a girl. I knew she didn't want me to date her until I finished college. He wasn't even sure why he had agreed to take her to that candy store. He wasn't an idiot either. He was fully aware that he had asked Kaneko Tujo on a date. Hell, I barely knew the white girl. I could always cancel, but it would be silly. I can't do anything about it now, Naruto thought. I really couldn't do anything about it. I didn't even know all the girls I had asked Kaneko on a date. The only girl he talks to who doesn't flatter him is Anashi, whom he has known for 2 years. But doubted he would consider dating anyone. Hell, he didn't think he was asking someone out himself. After washing and putting away all the dishes, the redhead took a shower, but while doing so, his mind was filled with the strange voice he heard. She was so strange, and the voice didn't seem friendly. It seemed as if he wanted to kill someone, but for some strange reason, he didn't feel threatened. Probably because it was my own damn mind, Naruto whispered as he got out of the shower. He got dressed. Instead of his school uniform, he decided to put on a black shirt over it. He was wearing a Monstar t-shirt. He can also be seen wearing black camouflage jeans and nightgowns. The shoelaces of the program are dark blue. He grabbed the phone, wallet, headphones, helmet, and the keys to his Honda Neorwin motorcycle. Naruto can be seen coming down the stairs to God K-chan. I'll see you later, Naruto said. Kushina returns the greeting and then gets on her motorcycle with blue tot on. Reproduces capital. This is Apex. She smiles as the wind blows in her face. No matter how many times, he always enjoyed the feeling. I was also sure that many other motorcyclists, they enjoyed it too, Plus I was sure no one has a motorcycle like this. Remember when he fought and got the motorcycle? He pretended to be Ghost Rider, but obviously he wasn't doing any of the crazy tricks. Mainly because it was absolutely crazy trying to do it. The red-haired teenager sees that he arrives at a traffic light and then feels as if he is being watched. He turns his head and sees 3 kids gawking at his motorcycle. He wasn't really surprised by that. After all, most people look at their motorcycle as if it were made of dreams themselves, which is pretty much what it is. And fortunately, he got his license when he was 16, and he doesn't have to depend on anyone to drive him. And he doesn't need to take a bus with him driving, he can leave whenever he wants, and he doesn't have to wait. With the light turning green, he walks away in a matter of minutes, sees Quimburger, the place where he will meet the little one. Little white girl, and it wasn't that hard to find her. You see her standing outside petting a cat. Kaneko can be seen wearing a light blue shirt, leggings on the back, wearing blue denim shorts, and a pair of black shoes. At the sound of the motorcycle, Kaneko turned his head and saw Naruto. "How long have you been waiting, Kaneko?" Naruto asked. He watched her while she shook her head. She looks down at her motorcycle admiring it. He also noticed the music that was playing. "Rich Chiga is great," said Kaneko, who gives Naruto a thumbs up. Naruto in response laughs, which causes her to pout and hit him on the arm, and Naruto found himself surprised by the force used by her. Then he extends his arms. "Come on," Kaneko said. Naruto hands him a helmet, puts it on and gets on the motorcycle, then wraps his arms around Naruto and snuggles on his watertight back. Kaneko thought. Naruto ignored her by snuggling up next to him and starts driving towards Mimi's fantasy. Kaneko is dizzy with excitement. The only thing he loves more than rap music and sweets is his family, but if the food in Mimi's fantasy is as good as his senpai says, he will gladly sell the souls of his friends, just to see if she lives up to expectations. Then look at her hair, it was not as delicious as Ria's red hair. But her hair has its own Naruto senpai shine. Kaneko said. In response, he'll hum like this, "Is something wrong?" Naruto asks curiously. "I was wondering why you asked me to come with you, and why you don't show up at Pai." It seemed that they knew each other. Kaneko asked. Naruto couldn't stop a drop of sweat from falling on his head. "Honestly, I have nothing to do with it. I actually asked myself that this morning, but I couldn't figure out why you would." I asked. "Why would you rather I bring Sona instead?" Naruto asked. "No. I want to go," Kaneko said in a flat tone. She wasn't even sure why she had agreed to go with Naruto. "I knew it wasn't just to try out the new candy store." Okay, that was a lie, but there was another reason I had accepted, and I wasn't sure what the reason might be. She knew that Ares had told her and the rest of the nobility that Naruto had a sacred team, but that he had a sacred team was what led her to accept his invitation. At best, I was curious about him. I found it quite a lot interesting, much more interesting than anyone at school. Mainly because at school they only saw her as the mascot and didn't even bother to meet her, except her friends and the Sona nobility. Naruto was the only one who didn't call her by her school title. Instead, he treated her like a normal person. Normally, such things didn't bother her, but for some reason, being treated like a normal person had made her feel good. Kaneko smiled as the wind whipped across his face. "That's great," thought Kaneko. Then he looked at her t-shirt, and it looked like her. A smile appeared on his face as he recognized her. "He's from Space Jam, isn't he, Naruto-senpai?" Kaneko asked. Naruto nods his head with a smile. "Yes, it is." "It's great that you recognized this shirt," Naruto said. The comment made Kaneko blush. "It's a classic," Kaneko said. Naruto nods his head in agreement. "I sure do. I also have a Toon Squad t-shirt, a Lick Mike t-shirt, you know, the good one with Bow Wow, not the other one. And an Air Boot one," Naruto said. "I didn't know they had an Air Boot t-shirt," Kaneko said. "Same thing, but we're almost there." "I would like to meet you too," Naruto said. Kaneko looks at him in surprise. "You would, but you hadn't heard of me before." "I'm the school mascot," Kaneko said in a flat tone. Naruto just raised an eyebrow at the strange title. "No, not really." Naruto said, surprising Kaneko. "I don't really listen to the rumors at school, I find them useless. Also, I'm focused on my grades and which college to attend, so I don't really bother keeping up with the rumors." Also, that's a really stupid title. Kaneko agreed with Naruto that it was a very stupid title to call it. I had also heard a lot about him, like how smart and handsome he was. I heard a lot of girls talking about their whiskers. It was even believed that Naruto and Rias were brothers due to their red hair. But that rumor quickly faded away as Naruto and Rias had never spoken to each other. But people believed that Naruto and Sona were dating, but it was a rumor. But of all the rumors, I was glad that one of them was that he was kind. While I was curious about his sacred gear, I was also curious about him as a person. I'd rather have Naruto-senpai than that pervert, Kaneko thought. If I had to choose between a rock and Aize, I would choose the rock. Kaneko hated perverts, and Aize had a huge pervert. The biggest pervert in the world, at best. He almost felt bad that Sona and her nobility were going to catch Aize. "We're here," Naruto said, pulling Kaneko out of his thoughts, and she saw him. In fact, it would be almost impossible to see it. The building was as big as a restaurant or a buffet. Kaneko looks at the store with a look of amazement. "I've never seen a candy store before." "It's big," Kaneko said. Naruto and Kaneko parked, while the two got off the bike, and Naruto put a lock on both helmets. He was smiling at Kaneko, who was marveling at the store. "Yes, that's the expression of those who see it for the first time. And as you can see, the store is full," Naruto said. He turned around and saw Kaneko walking slowly towards the store, and she's not listening, Naruto thought. He then pressed the button on his keys, locking the gears of his motorcycle, and then walked towards her. "If you're surprised by the outside, you'll be surprised inside," Naruto said, and then felt Kaneko grab his hand. Naruto raised an eyebrow at Kaneko, who turned to him with an expression of conviction. "Come on, Naruto-senpai, I want to see what you have," said Kaneko, who starts walking fast with Naruto, having to walk fast to get there too. He was surprised that she was able to drag him away. "I didn't expect such a small girl to have such strength, even her grip on her hand was strong." Then he blushes as he realizes that he is holding a girl's hand thanks to the speed. As the little white girl is walking, the two enter the building and marvel at the sweets. Not only is the store full of various goodies, but they even have human-sized sweets. Sweets much taller than their small-sized sky. Kaneko whispered. This comment caused Naruto to laugh. Kaneko then takes a shopping cart and drags Naruto towards a large bag of marshmallows. The marshmallows themselves were the size of a bowling ball. "Kaneko, I'll only buy you 5 things, so don't go crazy," Naruto said. Kaneko puffed his cheeks with disgust. He pouted. Kaneko, the people who were looking at them, let out a strong astonishment. This comment had made the red-haired and blue Blankwi duo blush. Kaneko quickly threw the marshmallows into the cart, and then quickly dragged Naruto, but when they moved away from the group, she came to torment him and turned to the blushing Uzumaki. She quickly turned her head, without letting her flushed cheeks you drive. Kaneko demanded. Naruto shook his head, and unfortunately, he had never been to that place before, so he had to trust Naruto. "I know of something you might like," Naruto said. Then he started walking, which caused her to look at him curiously. The two passed by several snacks, each delicious. I couldn't believe how big they were. They stopped by Rice Crisps and Treats. But the box of Rice Crisps and Treats was the size of 4 bricks. He also noticed that they were not simple, but a mixture of chocolate, caramel and peanut butter. And Naruto watched her as he grabbed her with amazing speed. Then she turned to him with her yellow eyes shining with happiness. "I want to win." "What types do they have?" asked Kaneko, who really wanted to eat almost every treat he saw, but had to fight the urge after all. He said he could only get 5 items. "The real question is that they don't have," declared Naruto, then pushed the cart with Kaneko, walking beside her and turned towards her with a curious expression on his face. "I know you like sweets and rap, but that's it. I don't know what else you like or what your family is like," Naruto said, and quickly noticed the sad expression in his eyes. "I guess something happened with your family, you don't have to tell me." "Mellow, but I know that expression is the expression of someone you've lost. It must be hard," Naruto said. Kaneko turned to Naruto with a surprised expression. He was shocked that he had lost his parents, and, in some case, lost his older sister Kuroko, while she was still alive. She was a wanted criminal. "Have you lost someone?" Kaneko asked. Naruto nods his head. "Yes, I understand how it feels to lose someone, but enough of the sad things. How about you tell me something about yourself, something I don't know? Naruto asked with a smile on his face. I hate perverts, Kaneko said. Kaneko in a flat tone. Naruto secretly laughed at her. How is that guy Aize? Naruto asked. She nods her head, especially that degenerate and pitiful cockroach, Kaneko said. Wow, I didn't think I'd meet someone who hated perverts more than Tsunade Bahachan. Did Naruto think anything else? Naruto asked. Kaneko nods her head cats. Kaneko said, causing Naruto to raise an eyebrow at the comment. I love cats. I also like walking around the city. I like cartoons and Greek. Your bike is great, Kaneko said blushing. Naruto laughs at this and Kaneko slaps him in the ribs, which makes Naruto grunt in pain. I like my bike too. I like many things, especially taking long walks, listening to music, and falling asleep listening to Yaji. His music is very relaxing. I also like to ride a bike, Naruto said. The two of them look at the different cookies that are everywhere. Kaneko wipes his mouth and stops the bullet. She couldn't help but wonder if he was in heaven, even though he's a demon to her. This store is exactly what I imagined. His personal paradise. Now I can die happy, he thought with Echo, who had seen chocolate chips, caramel, Esmores, Butterfingers, Hearse and Chimenta. His yellow eyes fell on the cookies of the Gale Scouts. She turned and opened her eyes wide with delight. The cookies she was looking at were much bigger than her tiny hands. She was sure the cookies were at least 4 times bigger than hers. They had peanut butter cups, toasted marshmallows, white chocolate, and cheesecake. He slowly turned his head towards the redhead and pointed at the cookies. What is this? Kaneko asked with wide eyes. Naruto looks where she's pointing and smiles. Oh, that? Naruto asked. Kaneko nods quickly. Those are the Mondo cookies, they are very popular. You're lucky to be able to find them, Megami. He had told me that it was. They usually sell out by 11. Said Naruto, watch as a woman starts to grab him, but Kaneko grabs him and looks at the woman. Mine, Kaneko said in a monotone voice. The woman turned away from the small one, surrounded by a dark aura. She wasn't going to let anyone take the candy away from her. He didn't care if the lady had never tried it. He was not going to let anyone take it from him, not even Ro, whom he deeply appreciates and for whom he would give his life. He turned his head to Naruto. I want cake, Naruto-senpai, Kaneko said. Instead of answering him, he simply pushed the cart with Kaneko following him. He took it back from me, Naruto said, prompting Kaneko to give him a questionable look. You don't just like sweets, you love them. Naruto said. The only thing Kaneko did was to feel with his head. He had allowed a smile to brush his lips, and found himself enjoying his presence more than he originally thought. While his thoughts were about her and Naruto, the red-haired teenager narrowed his eyes as he felt as if someone was ringing bells inside his head. I didn't understand why his head hurt so much. Then he was forced to close his eyes because his vision was starting to turn. Of blurry, she didn't understand why this was happening. She knew it wasn't a headache or her vision after that strange dream. Has been feeling strange. It's almost time, young Gorgon. You'll understand soon enough. Hang in there, it won't be long. You will soon understand your Gorgon lineage. He noticed the strange voice. Before she could even question the strange voice, Kaneko touches her arm and turns to her, who points at the cakes. Are you okay, Naruto-senpai? It's like you're thinking deeply, asked a curious Kaneko. I was wondering if it could be his sacred equipment, Kaneko thought. Naruto nods his head with a fake smile. He's lying, Kaneko thought. The two walk towards the cake section. Now remember that this will be your 4th item, but all these cakes taste good. Any one I choose will be perfect, Naruto said still. Who didn't try all these cakes, but was confident that Megami wouldn't make a bad cake. It's your choice. Which one is your favorite? Asked the white girl. Naruto smiles in response. Well, that's easy. It has to be the French white chocolate cheesecake, Naruto said. I don't know what it is, but I want it, Kaneko said with conviction. He looked for the cake and left Naruto alone with the cart. It didn't take long for the white girl to find him. Then he saw something approaching. He grabbed it easily. He turned to the person and saw a little girl. Instead of giving the cake to the cart, he walked towards Naruto, leaving her stunned. He thought that the little teenager would give it to her son. Kaneko turned to Naruto and asked, "Where are we going now?" "How about some brownies?" Naruto asked. His only response was a nod of the head. "Okay, then follow me," Naruto said, and the two of them followed him. Then they walked towards the opposite direction, and the little white girl couldn't help but feel like a complete idiot for not having noticed that the brownies were there. She looked down embarrassed. Naruto at least smiled at him. It's showing she definitely looks better with a smile than with that emotionless mask. That USA, I was wondering what happened to him, Naruto thought, but he knew the girl wasn't ready to talk about it, and he was fine with that. Naruto then takes a box of brownies. On the box it said Reese's and Earth's brownies, and believe me, these are amazing, Naruto said. The two then headed to the checkout counter. "Will you take me home after this?" asked Kaneko, who sounded sad. This did not go unnoticed by Naruto. He shook his head negatively. "No, I thought we'd go to a cafe after this." "What do you think?" Naruto asked. Kaneko smiles at him. "I would like that," Kaneko said. That she felt quite happy about herself for having accepted his invitation. "I was also expecting today to be a slow day." The next day, the young Uzumaki can be seen in the library. Inside the library, Naruto is reading the Jurassic Park book. I had always wanted to read it after hearing that the movie was based on it. While reading his book, his mind began to wander towards his date with Kaneko. He was an interesting person, nothing like the rest, including Sona. I not only wanted to meet her, but also to help her. It was clear that she was suffering. I knew it had to do with the past, I just wasn't sure what it was, but I wanted to help her. But his thoughts stopped when he felt like poking him. He ignored it, hoping the person would leave him alone. After the person poked him twice more, he turned his head and saw a beautiful person. Redhead who looked very shy. He raised an eyebrow at the woman. "Hello, my name is Yuma by hand," said the redhead who was looking at Naruto with a strong blush on her cheeks. Yuma is an attractive young woman with violet eyes and slender body. She has long, silky black hair that reaches to her hips. She is wearing a short black dress with a small light purple jacket on top and purple flats. "Hi, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Do I know you?" Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. The girl didn't look very familiar. Again, she doesn't really pay attention to her. To the people at school except Kaneko and Sona, but this girl he wasn't sure if he really met her. The only woman he talks to besides Sona is Akano. He watches as Yuma shakes her negatively. "No, you don't bite. I've seen you around, and I think you're cute. I wanted to know if you would go out with me," Yuma asked with his face turning crimson red. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise at the woman's statement. It was something he didn't expect. He really didn't know what to expect from the woman. Naruto then rubbed the back of his head in a nervous manner. "You're still attractive," Naruto said. Yuma smiled at this. His eyes turned and a twinkle appeared in his eyes. Then he turned to her and the twinkle disappeared. "But I can't just go out with you," Naruto said. Yuma acquires a sad expression, but mentally narrowed his eyes. "And why don't you go out with me?" Yuma asked in a tone of false curiosity. "Well, the thing is, I don't know you. I can't date someone I don't know. And I'm busy trying to get good grades in school and looking for colleges," Naruto said, hoping the girl would understand his reasoning. I knew other men would just say forget school and date Yuma, but he wasn't that kind of person. So he's not a pervert like that guy, and I know Calawarner had murdered, and he seems more focused on his future. He won't have to worry about his future for a long time, Yuma thought, and then smiled brightly at Naruto, and then took his hand. "How about we get to know each other? You said you wouldn't date someone you don't know, then I'll become someone you do know, and then I can call you my boyfriend tomorrow after school. I'll meet you at the student parking lot, we'll have a lot of fun tomorrow, and here's my number," Yuma said, handing Naruto a piece of paper. Before he had a chance to reject her request, she disappeared from her sight. Damn, he moves when he wants to. But who the hell is he? Naruto thought. Then he went back to reading a book, but he couldn't help but wonder why these women were getting into his life. First Sona, then Kaneko, and now this Yuma. Unfortunately for him, he wasn't sure if they were really doing it. Naruto was grateful that his head didn't hurt, and he didn't hear that strange voice in his head. But I should hurry up and go to my clinic. They definitely need help, thought Naruto, who is now focusing on the people he helped for so many years. The next day, the school flew by. Nothing special happened, except that Aiz and his friends were beaten tooth and nail, but that was not new. Naruto walked past the blushing girls who were staring at him, but he ignored them and fixed his gaze on Yuma, who seemed to be wearing a school uniform. Her uniform consisted of a dark red jacket with the letter P embroidered in gold, a white t-shirt, a red bow, and a green skirt with a thin white stripe on the bottom part. Well, that's probably why I've never seen her, but even her uniform doesn't look familiar, Naruto thought. She smiles at him with a bright smile. Hi Naruto-kun, I thought I'd start looking for you, Yuma stated with a fake pout. Then he rubbed the back of his neck. You won't need to do that. So, where are we going? Naruto wondered as he pretended he had a date on Saturday. He only knew where to take the white one because he knew her love for sweets. But here he has no idea what Yuma's interests are. She then grabs his hand, making him blush in surprise. How about a zoo? It's been so long since I've been there, and it seems like a good option for us to get to know each other, Yuma said, then released his hand. And then got on his bike. Naruto then pulls out an additional helmet, which Yuma puts it on. Well, what are you waiting for? Because slow? Yuma asked himself. Okay, let's go. Naruto said, then he put on his own helmet and left. And the red-haired teenager didn't notice that Akeno and Tsubaki were watching from afar. Yuma smiles to herself. Well, this was easy, but I must admit that riding a bike is fun. But I have a mission, the young teenager thought. They arrived at the zoo, and Yuma smiled. She took his hand, and they entered the zoo. They passed by several cages. He stopped when he saw a flock of peacocks. His eyes sparkled when he saw the big birds. Naruto puts his hands in his pockets and smiles at him. I guess you like them? Naruto asked in a curious tone, but it was clear as day how much he liked colorful birds. Yuma nods. Yes, I do. They are so pretty. Come on, I want to see the others. The birds, Yuma said, dragging Naruto by the hand with a not fake smile, but a real 100-watt smile. Her eyes sparkled even more as she looked at the owls. They are so lucky, Yuma said. Naruto turned to her. They are free birds who are allowed to go wherever they want, Yuma said. Yes, I guess you're right, Yuma, Naruto said. Then she turned to him with a pout. Naruto raised an eyebrow and said, Call me Yuma-chan, Yuma said, looking at the teenager who was taller than her. Naruto rolled his eyes and looked at the sweet girl. How about we get some crepes instead? And advised Naruto that he would not call her Yuma-chan. After all, he hadn't called Sona-chan. Kai! Yuma exclaimed, and then grabbed Naruto's hands after the two finished the pancakes and started walking around looking at the tigers, turtles, wolves, hyenas and rhinos. The two stopped at a cage containing an anaconda family. Each of the snakes looked at Naruto with a curious look. Then, he began to hear voices not from the other person or inside his mind, but from the snakes. His blue-colored eyes transformed into green snake eyes. His height fell to the ground as soon as Naruto's legs gave way, and he crashed to the ground. You have awakened, young Gorgon, said the voice that Naruto did not hear because everything around him was restless. Fine, let's go, Naruto said. Then he put on his own helmet and left, and the red-haired teenager did not notice that Akeno and Tsubaki were watching him from afar. Yuma smiles to herself. Well, this was easy, but I must admit that riding a bike is fun. But I have a mission, the young teenager thought. They arrived at the zoo, and Yuma smiled. She took his hand, and they entered the zoo. They passed through several cages. He stopped when he saw a flock of peacocks. His eyes sparkled when he saw the big birds. Naruto puts his hands in his pockets and smiles at him. Do they look good to you? Naruto asked with a curious tone, but it was clear as day how much he liked colorful birds. Yuma nods. Yes, I do, they are so pretty. Come on, I want to see the other birds, Yuma said, dragging Naruto by the hand with a smile, not fake, but a real 100-watt smile. His eyes sparkled even more as he looked at the owls. They are so lucky, Yuma said. Naruto turned around. He turned to her. They are free birds that are allowed to go wherever they want, Yuma said. Yes, I guess you're right, Yuma, Naruto said. Then she turned to him with a pout. Naruto raised an eyebrow and said, "Call me Yuma-chan," Yuma said, looking at the teenager who was taller than her. Naruto rolled his eyes and looked at the sweet girl. "How about we get some crepes instead?" And advised Naruto that he would not call her Yuma-chan. After all, he hadn't called her Sona-chan. "Kai!" Yuma exclaimed, and then grabbed Naruto's hands after the two fight against the crepes and start to walk, looking at tigers, turtles, wolves, hyenas and rhinos. The two stopped at a cage containing an anaconda family. Each of the snake stars looked at Naruto with a curious look, and then began to hear voices not from the other person or inside his mind, but from the snake. His blue eyes then changed to snake-like green eyes. His crepe falls to the ground as soon as Naruto's legs give way and make him crash to the ground. "You have awakened, young Gorgon," said the voice that Naruto did not hear because everything around him was restless. End of the summary. Who was that voice? Where am I? Naruto wondered, surrounded by darkness. The last thing I could remember were the voices of the snakes in the zoo, but that didn't make sense. This wasn't Harry Potter, and people shouldn't be able to talk to animals. And it was that strange voice that I kept hearing in my dreams and now at the zoo. It said Gorgon. What the hell did it mean? Naruto thought, but there was something else bothering him. A strange sensation on his scalp. He struggled to open his eyes after a few seconds of trying, when he finally managed to open them. His cerulean eyes were wide open because he was lying on Yuma's lap with his huge chest in full view. She turned her head to the side, avoiding looking at him. "What are you doing?" Naruto stammered as he felt his hand go through his spiky curls. Yuma laughs at Naruto. "Your hair is very soft, Naruto-kun." Yuma smiled. He didn't know, but he couldn't help but stroke her hair. Then he runs his hand through his whiskers, and then laughs at the young teenager hanging around. "What the hell? Why the hell am I laughing like a fucking schoolgirl? I am a fallen angel," Yuma thought, and then draws a fake smile. "You're like a cute Naruto-kun fox." Yuma smiled. Naruto blushes even more, tries to get up but loses his balance. Yuma quickly grabs Naruto. The redhead turns to the beautiful black hair. "How long was I unconscious?" Naruto asked. "About an hour," Yuma said. Her eyes opened, and then she smiled at him sweetly. "How about I take you home?" Yuma asked. Naruto nodded his head. "The only good thing about this human is that he is not a pervert. I was really lucky to get assigned, sorry Calawarner, but there's no way I'm going to pretend to be Aize's boyfriend." Yuma thought while she and Calawarner were friends, she didn't want to deal with Aize, and looking at her chest every 5 seconds. Some time later, the two meet in front of the Uzumaki residence. After hearing a knock, Kushina heads to the door. When she opens it, she sees her teenage son, and a teenage girl with black hair. Most mothers would be happy for their son to come home to a beautiful woman, but Kushina had another thought running through her home-destroying head. Kushina roared, and then grabbed Naruto, and brought him to her side. "What have you done to my son? She-devil! I won't let you ruin my Naruto's life, fuck you up!" Kushina exclaimed, showing her fangs to Yuguma. Yuguma sweated out a drop in front of the overprotected mother. "That was an answer I didn't expect. She didn't do anything, I collapsed and she took me home," Naruto said. Kushina quickly turns around, towards his son, looking into his blue eyes. "Kachin, I'm fine, he's a good person," Naruto said. Kushina turns to Yuma, looking at the young teenager with lioness eyes. Yuma looks in shock, as Naruto had called her a good person. It seems like it's been forever since someone has called her good. When was the last time someone called me good, Yuma thought. Honestly, she did not know why it mattered to her that this guy complimented her. It made no sense to her. She had always taken care of herself. Kushina looks at Yuma. Her crimson hair starts to move in a sinister way, reflecting her angry emotion. "Is it true what Naruto says?" growled Kushina in a tone that promised nothing but pain. "That one, yes, I saw him collapse and helped him get back here," Yuma says. Kushina continues to stare at the jet woman. She didn't know how, but the human one was quite intimidating. "Why the hell do I feel the need to plead my case?" thought Yuma. She is a fallen angel who always faced constant death, but this woman was bullying her. Then he looks back at his son, and then at Yuma. "Okay, you can take my son to his room, but if you try to desecrate my Naru-chan, I will skin you alive and use the leftovers to make a new broom. Kushina growled. Naruto blushes with embarrassment. Take me to my room, Naruto mutters. Honestly, I wish his mom wasn't so protective. Tsunade wasn't even protecting him that much. Yuma nods and helps the tattooed teen to her the stairs. The black movie sighs when she feels Kushina's gaze fixed on her back. I'm sorry, she's a little protective of me, Naruto mutters with a deep sigh. A little bit. That's an understatement. This woman is possessive of him, Yuma thought, and then smiled at him. It's okay, Yuma says as they enter his room. He notices that his room was tidy, even the bookshelf was organized. He looks around and sees a picture of a young Naruto and his parents. He saw his mother, but he did not see or feel his father. She looks at Naruto, who has his arm covering his face. Where's your dad? I didn't see him or hear him. Is he at work? Asked a curious Yuruma. He quickly realized how stiff he got. It would be impossible not to notice how quickly his hand tightened. Accident, Naruto says. It was clear he didn't want to talk about it. Yuma invited her, she could have guessed it for herself. He always talks about his mother, but never mentions his father. She supposed he wasn't so perfect after all. He narrowed his eyes. Well, that explains why her mother is like that, Yuma thought, although this new information makes her even better. That's the Naruto smiles at him. Thanks for today, Yuma. Just don't tell this to anyone. It's a memory I can't forget, Naruto says. His eyes turn blank, surprising her. There goes the human praising her, and of course, he was not talking about her appearance, but about her personality, or to be more precisely, firm the false Yuma. By instinct, she strokes his head. Her purple eyes look with amazement at how soft his red hair is. She lets out a sigh. What the hell am I doing? Yuma mutters, looks at Naruto, and noticing that he is asleep, a cold runs through her. She looks towards the door and lets out an audible gulp. Kushina looks at her with burning fury. Before she can say a word, Kushina grabs her by the face and lifts her up with one hand, surprising Yuma of the woman's monstrous strength. And stay out, you she-devil. Kushina screamed as she literally threw Yuma out of the house. While Naruto is dreaming, he finds him completely in total darkness. Suddenly, a black and golden snake with crimson horns appears in front of him. He can clearly see its teeth, and they would be more suitable for a dragon. Wow, we finally met my partner. The snake smiled, showing its dragon fangs. What are you? Naruto asked, his eyes widened. He had heard that voice before. Ah, you finally recognized me, huh? It took you long enough. I am a sacretier, a gift from God. For now, you can call me Devourer of Worlds, Uridet, for now. Says Uridet. Suddenly, Naruto has expelled the mental landscape. He wakes up in his room, while he is a logical person. Whatever is going on with him, he can't explain it realistically. He let out a loud groan. This only gave him one reason, to look for answers. Feeling even more frustrated, he buries himself under the covers. The next day, Naruto was at the table, almost finishing his breakfast, and he didn't even pay attention to the knocking on the door. When Kushina opened the door and stared at the smiling Yuma, "What do you want?" Kushina asked. Yuma stares at her with a bead of sweat on the side of his face. Kami, this woman is relentless. Yuma thought and smiled at the mother. I wanted to walk to school with him, Yuma says. Kushina looks at her with a suspicious look. Wait here, said Kushina, closing the door in her face. Yuma looks at the door with a dumbfounded look. Naruto, that girl is here. Kushina exclaims. He doesn't even bother to remember my name. Although Yuma opens the door once more, he smiles when he sees Naruto wearing his motorcycle helmet. Good morning, Naruto-kun. Yuma says, hoping to be able to ride his motorcycle. Good morning, you Kaneko. Naruto exclaimed in shock. Kaneko. A confused Yuma replied. She turns her head and sees the little white one. Both the fallen angel and the demon look at each other with a stunned look. What the fuck is he doing here? Yuma thought, quickly shakes off the total surprise and replaces it with a fake smile. Who are you, first-year students? Yuma asked. Kaneko looks at her with an empty gaze, but inside she's freaking out. Kaneko, I want to go to school with Naruto, Kaneko says. I'm Yuma, I'm sorry but Naruto-kun and I go to school together, Yuma says as both girls stare at each other. Naruto sighs at the two girls' argument. Well, we can't all ride on my bike, Naruto says. Both girls turn to him with a twinkle in their eyes. Phew, me and my big mouth. Naruto grumbles. Instead of riding their bikes, they walk to school holding each other by the arm. He sighs as he feels numerous angry looks on him. First with Eko-sama. And now this beautiful girl. A boy grumbled. Another child cries tears of anger. How nice. Growls a teenager. Uzumaki is very lucky, says a teenager. It's not fair. I want Kaneko to hold me like this, said a boy. This is bullshit. A teenager shouted. I will die for you, Kaneko-chan. A fanatic shouts. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea, Naruto mutters, being the center of everyone's attention throughout the day. At each period, everyone was staring at him. By the third period, most of the students knew that Yuma and Kaneko were holding on to him. With the final bell ringing, he leaves the classroom and growls warily. Relax, Naruto, this is the last year. Naruto thought. The sooner he graduates, the sooner he won't have to deal with the idiots at school. Outside, he sees a patient Yuma waiting for him. Yuma, what are you doing here? Naruto asked surprised. A lot of the open-minded guys stared at her. She pouts at him. I told you to call me Yuma-chan. And I wanted to walk you home, Yuma says. Naruto couldn't say anything as she was carrying him to the village holding onto her arm, which made Naruto blush in the distance. Kaneko, pouting, watches with dissatisfaction. Yuma smiles radiantly at the red-haired teenager. Let's eat, says Yuma. But I was going to study, Naruto says. He also purposely left out the fact that he goes to this homeless place to help people. Yuma pouts at him. But I want to have fun. Yuma exclaims. He sighs defeated. She is glad to hear this. She snuggles into his arm with a calm look. Many adults look at them in amazement, mistaking them for a couple. Yuma looks at Naruto. Your mom didn't like it, Yuma claims. I think he's starting to warm up. I mean, when he saw you at the door, he didn't slam the door in your face, so that's something. It could have been worse, Naruto says. Really? Yuma asked, blinking in a tender way. Naruto nods. He could have used his bat, Naruto says. Yuma shudders at the thought of the redhead. The woman could easily pick it up with one hand, and did not want to check the theory. Naruto lets out a giggle. Yeah, it's pretty strong, Naruto says. Yuma lets out a giggle. Well, that's an understatement of the century. That woman is probably a descendant of a demon. I wouldn't be surprised if that monster fought a bear just for fun. Yuma thought. He mentally sighed. Phew. What the hell am I doing playing the nice girl? I have to hurry up. Yuma thought as they entered the small restaurant that sold hot dishes. He smiled at Naruto. This place is really good. Believe me, you'll like Naruto-kun, Yuma said as they sat down. She ordered a plate of hot meat, and Naruto ordered salmon. It took a little while to receive your order. When the food finally arrived, she watched him as he cooked the meat. Once it was well done, he ate it. Yuma chuckled as he saw the twinkle in her eyes. Hey, I told you. Yuma laughed. Then he stopped laughing when he heard someone chewing. He turned his head and saw Kaneko chewing his second helping. How long have you been there? Yuma asked. The little teenager takes a bite of steak for a few minutes, Kaneko says without either the humans or the fallen angel knowing. He had been following them since they left school, not even Ara knows that she is here for some reason. He didn't like how Yuma clung to him. Maybe it was because she knew who he was, of course. It could have been because he was the only one who really treated her like a normal person. She blushes when thinking about her time with Naruto. Yuma arched an eyebrow, annoyed by the girl. What the hell has been here all this time? How did I not notice? It's okay, we just need to calm down, Yuma thought, and continued eating. Then she stopped eating when she felt Kaneko staring at her. What? Yuma asked. I want to sit next to Naruto, Kaneko says. But I'm sitting here, Yuma says. I don't care. I want to sit there, says Kaneko. The two women glared at each other. If you look closely, you can see electricity in their eyes as they stare at each other. Naruto turns to Yuma and sighs hard. Let Kaneko sit there, I don't see any problem, Naruto says. Yuma pouts and stands up. As Yuma and Kaneko glare at her, she holds up a sign, which makes her very angry. Kaneko, now sitting next to Naruto, looks at him with innocence. He smiles at her. "How was your day?" Naruto asks him. "Fine, but math is bad," says Kaneko. "Can I help you if you want?" Naruto asks. Kaneko nods quickly, which makes him smile. Yuma looks at her with irritation. Maybe the people at school aren't so bad, Naruto thought. After 3 more servings, I was full. Each student pays his own bill. Naruto decides to accompany her home, and Kaneko decides to accompany her, distrusting the busty woman. Even when they left, the two continued to stare at each other. Naruto can't help but wonder when they'll stop staring at each other. Incoming partner. Yurido screams, deciding to listen to his secretary, knocks both girls to the ground, and narrowly dodges the spear that was thrown at them. "What the hell happened?" A confused Naruto exclaimed. "That would be me, your little human," Donasek says. Naruto looks up at the night sky and sees Donasek flying. The fallen angel laughs at the teenager and turns to Yubuma. "I see you took your time, I will reign. It doesn't matter, I'll kill this brat and the demon bitch." The fallen angel smiled. He throws the spear of blue light at Naruto, but his left arm glows purple, revealing an armored snake head. And scaled, the armored gauntlet is black and purple, with 4 crimson horns protruding from the head. The eyes are a metallic maroon color on the top of his head. It is a small gold-colored gem. The mouth of the snake opens and swallows the spear of light, surprising the supernatural people who look into it. From Shokuku, "What the hell? This is my arm." A confused Naruto exclaimed. If the fallen angel wasn't strange enough, then the transformation of his arm was simply confusing. The fallen angel charges at him with blinding speed, and appears in front of him, and slaps him with the stir. You see, he throws it against a tree. "Don't get ahead of yourself. You're still a pathetic human." Don Aset gloats, creates another spear of light, but before he could throw the weapon, Kaneko punches him in the stomach. Rainer throws a light spear at his shoulder that had thrown him through a tree. While he is distracted, stretch out your arm and say Hydra Flash, Idasa, the snake says. "Okay, Hydra Flash, Idasa," Naruto exclaims. The snake head opens up and fires a purple shot that hits Donasek in the chest. The fallen angel clutches his chest in pain. "Damn it. That sacred gear can absorb energy and release it with even more force. I need to kill him now," Donasek thought, and hit both girls to the side, each running after him while creating a huge spear. Rainer throws several spears of light at him, but Donasek doesn't even seem interested that the spears have pierced him. He looks at Naruto with a bloodthirsty smile. Naruto's blue eyes transform into green eyes like snakes. Suddenly, Donasek becomes petrified before his eyes. What the hell just happened? Why does Yuma have wings? What the hell is going on? Naruto shouts, turning to the girls for answers. Both girls sigh, knowing that they can't lie their way out of the situation, especially when Naruto has just woken up his secretary and turned Donasek to stone. Kaneko lets out a sigh of defeat, and her black leather wings sprout from her back. "I am a demon, and she is a fallen angel," says Kaneko. So what?" Naruto asked, pointing to his arm. "That is a sacred artifact, known as God's artifact. They are objects with powerful abilities granted to humans by the God of the Bible. You possess a Longinus, a unique first-level sacred artifact, each with multiple abilities, unlike a normal sacred artifact, which only has one, and has the power to annihilate gods. This type of sacred artifact is also known as the God-destroying tool. There are 13 Longinus in total," says Rainer. Naruto scratches the back of his head in confusion. "So, these sacred gear are powerful objects sealed in people's body by God?" Naruto answers. Both girls nod their heads. Naruto's eyes turn to Rainer. "Wait a minute, Rainer called you. Who are you?" The red-haired human asked. "I will reign," sighs loudly. Her whole body is glowing. Then she looks much more mature and wears revealing leather clothes. Even her face looks completely sexual. He then uses his wings to drop her a few feet off the ground. "My real name is Rainer, and what the dwarf said is true. I'm a fallen angel like Donasek here," Rainer says, pointing to the broken pieces of Donasek. Kaneko looks at herself with an annoyed look, and then points to "I will reign, they ordered to kill you, says Kaneko, leaving Naruto. And I will reign. She was more surprised that the girl directly ratted her out. Naruto turns to her, is that true? Naruto asked. Yeah, but that was before. I can't go back because they will kill me, says Rainer. Okay, bye, says Kaneko coldly. Rainer clenches his teeth in annoyance. Fuck off with that stupid cat. Rainer shouted. Dirty pabo. Insulted Kaneko, squinting at Rainer. Dwarf. He shouted, I will reign. Kaneko's eyebrow moves sharply. The cow is talking, snarled Kaneko. I will reign looks like someone just kicked his dog, then he smiles mischievously and starts playing with his big chest, making Naruto's face turn a deep scarlet. Kaneko pouts with annoyance. Jealous brat. Don't worry, I'm sure your training bra will be too small one day. Don't worry, I'll keep Naruto with warm, Rainer says. He turns and winks at Naruto. This had only made him a stuttering mess. Grandma's breasts, says Kaneko angrily. I will reign, then punches Kaneko in the face, causing her to back down. Now, listen here, high school student, ugh, just stop. Naruto exclaims, causing the two girls to stop their insult fight, then rubs his eyes. I almost got killed tonight, and I'm going home, Naruto says. I will reign, fly over him, I will walk home with you. He says I will reign. Kaneko appears next to him and grabs his hand. No, I'm gonna fly like a turkey. Insult with echo. As the two stare at each other, Naruto lets out a sigh. She had no idea what she had gotten herself into, but it would be nothing like her current life. It had been 2 days since Danaseeks. It seemed that everything was back to normal, but Naruto used to practice with a Trudeau. He had also not seen Rainer and Kaneko, which surprised him. Like every morning, Naruto was eating his mother's homemade baffles and French toast. The duo heard the doorbell ring. Kushina opened the door and looked at the girl curiously. And you? Kushina asked. I had to admit, the girl was really cute. I am the first-year student of Kaneko Tujo Naruto-senpai, Kaneko says. Kushina narrows her eyes when she sees Kaneko. Come in, Kushina said cautiously. Kaneko simply nodded and followed the mother. He followed Kushina to the kitchen where Naruto was, eating, and smiled at him. Naruto, do you know this girl? Kushina asked. Naruto turns to his mother and looks at her in shock. Yes, she's my senior, Naruto says. Kushina hums to herself and then places her hand on Kaneko's head. Okay, I'll allow this one. Friendship, but if you try to play pattycock with my son, I'll skin your ass alive and throw pounds of salt on you. Threatened Kushina with echo shudders with fear. Later that night, Naruto had just finished with his last patient and everyone was leaving for a new place to sleep. Naruto had just finished putting the medicine away with a loud bang. Naruto clutched his shoulder in pain after being shot. Kyukakyu, take that, you stupid brat. Fred smiled and then shot Naruto several times, causing the boy to scream in pain. Fred then appears in front of him and lands a left punch with Naruto lying on the ground. Fred steps on her face, now die, you filthy devil, lover. Fred screams, stabbing Naruto in the stomach, causing him to vomit blood. I can't believe Danaseka let this talentless brat kill him. The crazy man laughed. When the man disappeared into the night, Naruto starts crying. I don't want to die. It will only make mom sad, there are still so many things I want to do. Naruto shouted, and then started coughing up blood, his vision became blurred, suddenly a red magic circle appeared. But his eyes were already closed. Then he heard someone shouting his name. That sounds like Kaneko, Kaneko muttered. Kaneko runs towards Naruto, cradling his head in his lap. Ares Buku, we're too late, cried a saddened Kaneko. Ares looks at Kaneko in a state of shock. I did not expect such a reaction. She knew her little friend, and she knew what she had to do. From what Kaneko had told him, he had a powerful sacragere, so he knew a pawn wouldn't do, so he used all his pieces to turn him into a demon. Time jump. The next morning, Naruto moans in pain, his eyes widen from wide open when he realizes he's awake in his bed and not dead. He also quickly realizes that there is someone else in his bed. He turns and looks into the eyes of a naked Ares who has a malicious smile, then grabs her by the shoulders, she raises an eyebrow. And tells him you have to get out of here, girl. Naruto says. She looks at him in shock. My name is Ares Gremmer, and I'm part of, I don't care, you have to leave now. Naruto says, getting out of bed and putting on some pants. He then pushes his clothes onto Ares' lap, and she pouts towards her red-haired companion. Well, that's it, says Ares. It's a girl I hear, growled Kushina. As she got closer and closer to the door, she began to get scared. She knew that if her mother found this girl in her room, she would kill them both. Sure, this red-haired girl, but that wouldn't stop her mother. No, this will only encourage her to create new ways for Kushina to kill this girl. Ares, seeing no other real option, he pushes her out the window. She stares in surprise, unable to believe that he just pushed out the window. Kaneko had told him about his mother, and he thought Kaneko was just joking about how protective she is of Naruto. Kushina bursts into his room, brandishing a bat. Where is he? Kushina asked, looking around her room. He watches her while she looks under the bed, and she looks at the ceiling. Who? Naruto lied. I heard a girl, says Kushina. While checking her closet, she squints and looks out the window, but sees no one. I know he was hearing someone. Kushina exclaims. Mom, there's no one here. Can you put the bat down, please? Naruto pleads. She lets out a sigh, and then hugs Naruto. Well, get ready for school, Kushina says, and then lets out a sigh of defeat. I could have sworn I heard a girl's voice. But don't worry, Naru-chan, I'll protect you from those horned teenage sluts. I will not let any of those girls ruin my son's future. Kushina exclaimed. At some point during lunch, Naruto buries his head in his desk. He soon realized that since he met Kaneko, his life had become a disaster. Who the hell was that girl? Naruto thought, maybe if he just closed his eyes. But that doesn't seem to be working when he hears the other students start whispering to each other. Then he lets out a sigh when he feels someone touch his shoulder. He turn around and go to Ria's grammar and stand in front of him. Shit, it's that weird girl, Naruto thought. Ares smiles at her in a friendly way. Can we talk? Ria's asked. Naruto just nods his head. As she leaves the classroom, Naruto turns to her and bows to her. I'm sorry for pushing you out the window, miss. Naruto apologizes. It's okay, Kaneko-chan told me how aggressive your mom can be, she says laughing, and then smiles at him. By the way, my name is Ares Grimori, says Ares. Naruto nods, but that doesn't mean he doesn't feel guilty for pushing her out a window. Then he turns to her with a confused expression. So, a laugh, where are we going? The tattooed teenager asked him. Then he looks at some students and notices that the guys at school are looking at him with jealousy. He turns away from them and turns to his red-haired classmate. He notices that the smile he wears seems to be forced, which confuses him a lot. To my club lounge, of course. Do you have any questions? Ria's asked. Naruto could only nod. Later that day, Naruto rubbed his eyes and drank the coffee he had prepared for Kino. She had told him about the war and the system of the demonic parts. Naruto looked like he had been short-circuited in the brain. I know this can be overwhelming, says Ares. Overwhelming is not the word I would use, Naruto thought. Kaneko, sitting next to him, was gorging herself. She then offered him a piece of cake, which he gladly accepted. Then he looked at Ria's angrily. How do I know I can trust you? From what you said, these other demons treat their nobles like slaves. How can I trust that you won't do the same? Naruto asked. She can understand why he seems so nervous. Many of her friends had acted the same way when she resurrected them into demons. I can assure you that the Grimori clan treats their nobility like family, Ares says. Naruto still seemed unsure about joining this female nobility and getting involved in a war that lasted 4 decades. He also didn't like the idea of being someone's slave. Kaneko turned to him and smiled at him. Naruto smiled back at him. You said that the fallen angels are chasing me because of what I have sealed inside, right? Naruto asked. Rias nodded as Akano and Kiba looked at Naruto curiously. Ares nodded. So they would go after my mom to get me? Naruto asked seriously. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they went after your mom. You may have killed Donaseet, but without the proper training, you are no match, says Rias. He would rather leave the room and pretend that this meeting never happened, but he knew that these fallen angels would not give up anytime soon. He couldn't let his mother get involved in this either. Phew, okay, but I'm not joining your club. I'm busy. Busy with other things, Naruto says. Ares smiles and stands up and stares at her. But if you start treating me like a slave, I'll kill you, Naruto threatens. When she leaves the room, Akeno laughs covertly and then turns to her best friend. We have an interesting little pawn, he joked to Kino, blushing. Just as Naruto is getting ready to ride his bike, Rainer tackles him. Naruto-kun, I miss you, Rainer exclaimed as she snuggled up against him. Naruto gives him a pat on the back. Where you've been? Naruto asked. I was looking for a new base. I couldn't go back to the old one, says I will reign. To my club lounge, of course. Do you have any questions? Riaz asked. Naruto could only nod. Later that day, Naruto rubbed his eyes and drank the coffee he had prepared for Kino. She had told him about the war and the system of the demonic parts. Naruto looked like he had been short-circuited in the brain. I know this can be overwhelming, says Ares. Overwhelming is not the word I would use, Naruto thought. Kaneko, sitting next to him, was gorging herself. She then offered him a piece of cake, which he gladly accepted. Then he looked at Riaz angrily. How do I know I can trust you? From what you said, these other demons treat their nobles like slaves. How can I trust that you won't do the same? Naruto asked. She can understand why he seems so nervous. Many of his friends had acted the same way when she resurrected them into demons. I can assure you that the Gremori clan treats their nobility like family, Ares says. Naruto still seemed unsure about joining this female nobility and getting involved in a war that lasted 4 decades. He also didn't like the idea of being someone's slave. Kaneko turned to him and smiled at him. Naruto smiled back at him. You said that the fallen angels are chasing me because of what I have sealed inside, right? Naruto asked. Riaz nodded as Akeno and Kiba looked at Naruto curiously. Ares nodded. So they would go after my mom to get me? Naruto asked seriously. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they went after your mom. You may have killed Donaseed, but without the proper training, you are no match, says Riaz. He would rather leave the room and pretend that this meeting never happened, but he knew that these fallen angels would not give up anytime soon. He couldn't let his mother get involved in this either. Phew, okay, but I'm not joining your club. I'm busy with other things, Naruto says. Ares smiles and stands up and stares at her. But if you start treating me like a slave, I'll kill you, Naruto threatens. When she leaves the room, Akeno laughs covertly and then turns to her best friend. We have an interesting little pawn, Akeno joked, blushing. Just as Naruto is getting ready to ride his bike, Rainer tackles him. Naruto-kun, I miss you, Rainer exclaimed as she snuggled up against him. Naruto pats him on the back. Where have you been? Naruto asked. I was looking for a new base. I couldn't go back to the old way, says Rainer. End of the summary. Naruto's beads of sweat settle on the busty fallen angel clinging to him. Well, she's not wrong. Going back will be suicidal, Naruto thought with his new demon status. He has only encountered 3 fallen angels, and they don't seem to be the type that sits and listens to reasons. They seem to be the type that strikes first. From what Ares had told him, the fallen angels had fallen because they committed some kind of sin. It was obvious that I Will Reign had done so too, but I wasn't going to ask him what sin he had committed. I had a feeling it was a topic that shouldn't be mentioned. Besides, the cause of his downfall was his own affair. She didn't seem that bad either. After all, she saved him, so she couldn't be that bad. She then walks away and smiles at him. Besides, there's something I need to tell you, he says. I will reign. She quickly realizes that her eyes look sad. The red-haired teenager looks worried at the black movie. He tilts his head in confusion. Huh? What's the matter? The confused pawn asked him. He watches her as she takes a deep breath of fresh air. I think it's better if I show it to you, he says. I will reign, and then gets on his bike. Naruto scratched his head in confusion. But you can't fly? Naruto asked. She nods her head. But your bike is cool. Exclaim I will reign. In addition, this gives her the opportunity to hug the red-haired heartthrob. And she does not need to worry about that Nico trying to get her attention. Naruto simply shrugged his shoulders. He got on the bike and blushed a deep red, which matched her own hair as she felt the great breast of I will reign. Unbeknownst to them, another redhead was watching them from the window. She pouts and looks at the two of them. Then he hears giggling. She turns around and sees Kuno laughing at her best friend. Phew, Riaz is jealous of the years. Fallen angels because he got close to our new pawn. You know, I heard he kicked you out of a future widow. Oh, I'd like to see the expression on your face. Akano laughed with her cheeks blushing. He'll punish me too, I wonder, says Akano. Arez shook her head at her best friend, although she can see why Kaneko and Reiner seemed to be attached to the red-haired Uzumaki. He was kind, friendly, intelligent, and he was also handsome, and, unlike most of the boys at school, he was not a pervert. Then he looks at Kino, and it won't be long before Sona gets Issel, Arez says. To not nod her head, and then look at her friend with concern, worrying about the heiress who is coming that day. Perverted bastard, Kaneko says with disgust, causing both teenagers to laugh at the little girl. Why not, Kaneko, it's time for us to start training. We've been putting off training for too long, Ross says. Both girls nod their heads in agreement. While Arez was making plans to train his nobility, Naruto and Reiner drove to an abandoned shrine, a smart shrine. Not as obviously as an abandoned church, but this could be a good place, he says. Naruto, he raised an eyebrow as he watched a young blonde girl leave the shrine, but just as she was leaving the shrine, she tripped over her own 2 feet, which made Naruto sweat a drop on her, then looked away as the dress was flying. Naruto then turns to I Will Reign. I Will Reign, who is this nun? Naruto asked firm what he could tell. She didn't emit the same kind of expression as laugh or rain, so it was safe to assume she was human. Well, this is Asia Argento. She belonged to the church until she was expelled for unknowingly curing a demon. My superior posed as an angel and sent her here to steal her sacred equipment, she says I Will Reign. He pulls away from Naruto and watches as Asia gets up. Then he bows to I Will Reign. She smiles at I Will Reign innocently, then turns to look at Naruto confused. Hello, sir. My name is Asia Argento. Who could you be? Asked a curious Asian who smiles innocently, but everything about this girl seemed innocent and pure. It was probably because she was a nun. Fortunately, she was not one of those nuns who abused their power, but she was too young to be one of those kind of people. On the other hand, not a single trace of anger is seen in this girl, for some reason. She already realizes that this professional could not lie even to save her life. Naruto smiles warmly at the little blonde nun, and then bows to the young nun. Hi sister, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, but you can call me Naruto, the Uzumaki says, and then points his thumb at the beautiful black-haired woman. I'm a friend of Reiner, Naruto says, smiling at Reiner, who blushes. So she smiles warmly at him, with her green eyes looking at him in amazement. Wow, Reiner-sama has told me that you are a very kind person. He says you help people too. I'm happy to finally meet you, Uzumaki-san. Says Asia when she met Reiner, she told him that the people of the abandoned church were bad people. Then he took her to the sanctuary, and told her it was a safe place. He even told her a lot about Naruto, and how he helps people in need. Needy. Naruto rubs the back of his head, blushing with embarrassment. Not used to praising, he lets out a nervous laugh. Thanks, Asia, but you can call me Naruto, Naruto says with a smile. Asia looks on in shock. Wait, are you sure about that? What's okay? Isn't that too formal? Asia asked, unsure. Naruto simply gestures at the girl. No, it's okay, I don't care, Naruto says with a smile. Then he raised an eyebrow, and she fiddled with her fingers. She even seemed unsure of herself. Can I make a request? The nun asked. She watched him while he nodded his head. Asia's eyes turned to her feet before staring at her mustachioed face. Can we be friends? Asia asked nervously. It's okay, I didn't expect this, the man thought, and then he smiled at her and patted the girl on the head. Of course, I don't see anything wrong with us being friends, Naruto says. His smile widened, and even his eyes started to sparkle. Really? You will really be my friend? Exclaimed the innocent. He quickly raised an eyebrow at the girl. Didn't you have any friends at the church where you lived? A confused Naruto asked. I was sure that a sweet and nice girl like Asia had tons of friends. Asia smiles at him sadly. Actually, no, I've never had a friend. In the church in Italy, no one really talked to me. They always distrusted me because of my gift, you see. God gave me the ability to heal, although my life has been difficult. I know it's only God trusting me, after all, he guided me to you, and I will reign Sama, says a smiling Asia. His smile faded when he saw Naruto. With pain? Are you okay? Asia asked in concern. That one, yes, just a small headache, Naruto says as his head hurts, because she says the name of God. Just as Ares had told her that she would feel pain if she heard the name of God. Personal note, never use your name, Naruto thought. I will reign looks at Naruto with concern, knowing full well about the demon's weakness. And knew that his head must feel like it was about to split wide open. I will reign smiles at Asia, and you should know that you have two friends, says I will reign. Asia then starts crying, but these are not tears, she pats Asia on the head. Come on, Asia, there's no need to cry, says I will reign. But I'm so happy. I never thought that one day I would have not one, but two friends. I have always dreamed of having friends, and going on a picnic, Asia exclaimed happily. And I introduced you. I will find someone so you can have more than two friends, says I will reign. Really? Asia asked ecstatically. His name is Middled, he is about your age, he lied I will reign. Middled was actually a few thousand years old, but she still had the appearance of a little girl. Is she a fallen angel too? Naruto asked. I will reign nod my head. Well, I guess I could have guessed that really doesn't sound like a name anyone would actually have. She is still just a child, she was manipulated to work with Kokobile, she says I will reign, and then turns to Asia. I'm sure you and she would be good friends, I'll reign smiled. Suddenly each one hears a growl, both the demon and the fallen angel, and then towards Asia, whose stomach growls again. Making both of them laugh, the blonde girl blushes. Naruto smiles at this. How about we go get something to eat? Naruto says. Rainer turns to Naruto. What's on your mind, burgers? Rainer asks. He shook his head. No, something better than ramen, Naruto smiled. Ramen? Rainer asked confused. Ramen? What is that? Asia asked, leaving the girl confused. Wait a minute. Do you know what ramen is? Naruto asked. She shook her head, and he grabbed her hand, making her blush. Okay, this is a security issue now. Naruto exclaimed. He then dragged her to his bike and got on it. Come on, Asia, get on, Naruto said. But I've never been to one of those before, Asia says, and then turns to I will reign. But what about I will reign Sama? There is not enough space, says Asia saddened. It's okay, I have my own way, he says I will reign. Two black wings sprout from his back. So she appears surprised and then, nervous, she gets on the bike wrapping him with her little arms. And then releases a repetition as they walk away, which makes her hug him tight. I will reign pouts as he sees the two of them walking away. He then adopts a serious expression as he floats in the sky, staring at the abandoned church. He knew that he could not allow someone like Kokobile to lay his hands on Asia. Besides that, Kokobile was only using them for his own benefit, since the only ones loyal to him were Fred and Calawarner. He knew that he had to warn his superior, since it was illegal for them to harm a human with a sacred equipment. And the fact that he is interested in Asia, besides having fallen angels here in Gremmer territory and besiege, could cause another war, and that was the last thing they needed. I guess I'll have to talk to Rias, I'll reign thought. She then points out knowing that this really can't wait, meaning she can't join Naruto and Asia, which made her shed tears. Then he smiles, realizing that this also means that Kaneko is not with him. While Rainer was flying to the Devil's Clubhouse, Naruto and Asia were enjoying ramen at a local restaurant. Especially Asia, since she had never tried real ramen, let alone the instant ramen that you would find in a market. The nun hummed with pleasure as she tasted the broth of her pork ramen. She smiled radiantly at Naruto, who blushed when he saw such a cute girl smiling at him. While Kaneko and Rainer were fighting for his attention, he was still used to being surrounded by women. Especially those as beautiful as Rainer and as cute as Asia and Kaneko. He smiles at her. I'm glad you like it, Asia. In fact, it's my favorite food. My Kachan used to make it for me on special occasions, she says. Naruto. Kachan. Repeated the confused nun. He nods. Oh, that's right, you're from Italy. AKA Chan means mom, Naruto says. She then puts on a face of understanding. Honestly, I couldn't believe I didn't know what ramen or hamburger was. Asia lived a life of refuge, Naruto thought. Honestly, I couldn't imagine not knowing what ramen and burgers were. It just made her wonder what other things she was naive about. I definitely couldn't stand living in a church. He would go crazy with how strict they are, and some have narrow minds and think their religion is superior. Asia looks at him confused to see him stop eating his ramen. Hey Asia, would you like to make this again and try some other food? Naruto asked. Besides, she seems lonely, and he wanted to make sure that she didn't feel lonely. I really like that, says Asia. Then the two start eating their food, even though they had just met Naruto. She could already tell he was kind. She felt blessed to have met such a nice person, even though she is sad because the church kicked her out. But at least she met, I will reign Naruto, two kind people, and I will reign promised. That I would have another friend too, and I couldn't be happier. I don't think I've ever been happier. I hope we can still be friends, Asia thought with a smile. He was also hoping to be able to ride his bike. Thank you, Naruto, Asia says. For what? Naruto asked. For being my friend, and for inviting me to this delicious meal. I feel really lucky to have met someone like you. I would like to reward you, please. Is there anything I can do? The young woman asked. Naruto rubs the back of his neck trying to think, then draws a smile on his face. You said you could heal, right? The red-haired teenager asked. The blonde nun nodded, which caused Naruto to smile more, making him look like a smiling fox. I think I have an idea, Naruto says. Thus he looks on in amazement. Back at the Occult Research Club, Ares looks at Reiner with suspension, while it does not look at Reiner with hidden anger. Of course, I Will Reign is not surprised, they both distrust her. He originally planned to kill Naruto. The best thing he can do is not to make Ares angry, as he might be reduced to dust, thanks to Ares' destruction magic. He literally destroys everything he touches, and she wasn't arrogant enough to think he can handle the red-haired woman's destruction magic. Thank you for seeing me, Ria-sama, says Reiner. No problem, but why did you want to meet with me? Rias asked. She did not hide the fact that she did not trust the fallen angel. This made Reiner sign. Well, at least they're not casting lightning bolts or destruction spells, so that's good, he thought. Then he shook his head mentally. It would be useless to think negatively. Like you and Sonas and Tur, the fallen angels. They have invaded their territory, maybe they don't know why, but I'm sure they know that they want to kill Naruto Kumi, that pervert from Ize. But what they may not know is that they are going after Asia Argento. She was a nun before she was expelled, she says I will reign. Notice how Ares narrowed his eyes at the aforementioned. The fallen angel's goal is to kill Naruto and Ize. Honestly, she didn't care about the little pervert. He heard that he had reincarnated in Zona and felt sorry for the Eris Sidir. Dealing with a pervert like Ize is a mission in itself. Why did they expel this Asia from the church, and why are they persecuting her? Rias asked. From what she told me, she was banished for having cured a demon, but Asia is a very innocent girl. If she can, she heals anyone. Even if he is an enemy of the church. In addition, he uses Alan's sacred Dulig artifact, which has the ability to heal humans and angels, as well as other supernatural beings such as demons and fallen angels. He says I will reign. Being able to heal demons and fallen angels seems amazing. I guess they want to use Asia to make themselves stronger, Rias asked. The gears in his brain started to move. Not only had they invaded her territory, but they were killing humans, and even tried to kill her and Sona's pawn. Such an act could cause a war. Reineria feels with her head if they think that with Dulig from Alien, they can kill both demons and angels. And the one who organized this is Kokubil. He left me in charge, but since I betrayed him, Calawarner is in charge, says Reiner. Both Ares and Akano were stunned to hear that the one who organized these fallen angels was Kokubil, one of the strongest. But why start all this mess now? Rias asked. Reiner's eyes narrowed. The war, Kokubil was never satisfied with how it ended. He always believed that we should have won. I will offer my help to deal with these fallen angels and exorcists. I have only one request. It says I will reign. Hearing that I will reign has a request makes both young ladies look at each other with curiosity. And which one could this be? This request? Asked a cautious Ares. To forgive my tell, she is just a child, She only accepted this plan because she thought that this would give her access back to heaven. If I must, I will even become one of your pieces, he says. I will reign with a bow, surprising both of them. They never waited. That a fallen angel would come to Ria's now. Would you really turn into a demon just to save my tilt? Arez asked, surprised. Yes, she has been like a little sister to me. I will do anything to protect her, but please forgive her, I will reign asked. Very well, I will reign, says Arez's son. Smiling inside. I definitely did not expect this to happen, but I was not going to deny the opportunity to get another piece. But speaking of Asia, where is it? Arez asked curiously. Rainer smiles at this. Naruto is inviting her to eat ramen, and you know something about what she never. I had heard about it, I hadn't even eaten ramen, says Rainer. Hearing this made Akeno laugh. Well, it's not funny. She seems to be living a very sheltered life, Akeno laughed. He thought it was nice that someone had never heard of ramen, since it was not extravagant or weird like some food. Arez turns to her best friend. Can you do me a favor and pick them up? The last thing we need is an exorcist attacking either of us, says Arez. Besides, she was worried about her new demon, since he is a newly created demon. The fallen angels will try to kill him when he is still a fresh demon. Yes, of course, Baku, Akeno said, and then teleported to his location, which was where he was going to help the homeless. You would expect to see Naruto and Asia taking care of the homeless. But not what you saw was a bloodbath with several dead people on the cold floor. Some had bullet holes while others had their limbs cut off. She looks around looking for the two and found them. She saw Asia standing behind Naruto, who was protecting her from an exorcist. Naruto gasped and stared at the exorcist, who was throwing his arm of snake scales at him. Naruto gritted his teeth as blood dripped from his mouth. Apparently, while fighting, the rebel exorcist had been shot several times. Just before the exorcist fired another light bullet, a magic circle appeared around the two, protecting them from the bullets. They both looked shocked, even the exorcist seemed surprised. The man looked at them angrily. What? A magical barrier? The man grunted. Who dares to interfere in the work of the Lord? Snarled the angry man. Subakui flies and glares at the man. You are raping the exorcist. This territory belongs to the Gremmer and Siege family, Tsubaki says coldly. He turns and looks at the injured Naruto before focusing on the man. The man points his gun at him. Damn it, you devilish scumbag. The man grunted. Phew, that's no way to talk to a lady, he says to Akeno flying down. He looks at Naruto with concern before focusing on the man. Lightning dances around his fingers as Tsubaki's Naginata is covered in fire before the man can even pull the trigger. It turns to ashes when lightning and fire burn it. The queens of Rias and Sona turn to see Naruto passed out. Seeing that the two are no longer in danger, he drops the barrier, and then they watch in amazement as Asia, crying, heals his wounds. I will reign wasn't lying when he said Asia can heal, Akeno thought as he watched the wounds quickly close as if he had never been hurt. Asia is crying for the downed Uzumaki. Please let Naruto be okay. The young woman screamed. Both Akeno and Tsubaki kneel before her and Asia embraces him. Who are you? Asia asked scared. Both women smile at her in a friendly way. They really couldn't blame her. She just witnessed a massacre. It's okay, you two are safe. We are friends of I will reign, Akeno says. So then he looks in shock. We can get you both to a safe place, would you like that? Akeno asked. Asia nods her head, hugging Naruto even more, deeply as if it were a security blanket. Akeno smiles at this and then turns to Tsubaki. Thank you for your help, says the